even though the ancient science that was bequeathed to us by the Egyptians is not recognised as science, that's how they considered it, and I'm going to prove that we can merge the two, the old and the new. Now, I want to start off with talking about our institutions. Everything we've been taught by our institutions is absolutely false. Right? Everything, the whole lot. All our institutions, the ones we trust in the most, that we think we should be able to get some answers and some truth, the religious institutions, are the ones that are failing the world the most. They're leading people astray and they're lying. And we're finding more and more corruption at the top of all the religions in the world. And we see it in politics. We all know that politicians are very, very corrupt, and we see corruption everywhere. Right, now, what I hope to do this evening, what I hope to achieve, is to share with you some knowledge that will help you to understand how we got into this situation and how we can get out of it. And this knowledge has been suppressed for many thousands of years now, and it's just science. It's science that if we are able to practice it on this earth, we will have peace. We will have all the good things that we were meant to enjoy on this planet. Now, I want to read you some quotes. You may have heard these before. Our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, and I think I'm liable to be put away as insane for expressing that. That's what's insane about it. Who said that? John Lennon. Yeah. He got whacked for that. Believe me, he got whacked for that, because he was preaching peace in a time when Nixon needed war, and all his Illuminati elite families, the warmongers that are on this planet. Our society, here's another one. Howard Zinn, failure to quit. Howard Zinn. Civil disobedience is not our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is that numbers of people all over the world have obeyed the dictates of the leaders of their government and have gone to war, and millions have been killed because of this obedience. Our problem is that people are obedient all over the world in the face of poverty and starvation and stupidity and war and cruelty. Our problem is that people are obedient when our jails are full of petty thieves, and all the while the grand thieves are running the country. How's this one? Benjamin Disraeli. This is about 150 years ago. Former Prime Minister, British Prime Minister. Governments do not govern. This is the Prime Minister of the British Commonwealth, man. This is the empire that ruled the world. And the man at the top of that said, governments do not govern, but merely control the machinery of government, being themselves controlled by a hidden hand. By a hidden hand. This world is governed by very different people from what is imagined by those who are not behind the scenes. Let me read that again. Benjamin Disraeli again. The world is governed by very different people from what is imagined by those who are not behind the scenes. Leo Tolstoy wrote the book War and Peace. In all history, there is no war which was not hatched by the governments. The governments alone, independent of the interests of the people, to whom war is always pernicious, even when successful. Here's another quote from Leo Tolstoy. Government is an association of men who do violence to the rest of us. Thomas Jefferson. A democracy is nothing more than mob rule, where 51% of the people may take away the rights of the other 49. So, it's not me saying that our institutions are corrupt. They are corrupt to the core. And we need to we must, if we're going to survive, we need to do something about this. John Lennon was killed, and shortly before his death, he was interviewed by Playboy magazine where he blatantly asserted, "We must always remember to thank the CIA and the army for LSD. They invented LSD to control people, and what they did was give us freedom," because that's what LSD does. It backfired on them. And then he said, "Look at the government reports on acid. Look at them." That's what he said. And indicating as well that he was aware of the extent to which he and other pop musicians had been set up to be used as dupes in massive social manipulation schemes. The governments are up to no good, guys. From early in 1972, John Lennon knew he was under surveillance, being followed in the streets and with his telephone tapped. More anonymously, in late 1972, he told Paul Krasner, a left-wing friend of Yoko Ono's in San Francisco from the early 1960s, "Listen, if anything happens to Yoko and me, it was not an accident." Another guy who was assassinated, JFK. This is the speech he gave just before he died. "The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic intelligence, economic, scientific and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no secret is revealed. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent." Very bad, John. You talk like that, you're going to get whacked, okay, in this world, because there are some dark, sinister, evil people that run the show. Abraham Lincoln was whacked. This is what he said: "I see in the near future a crisis approaching that unnerves me and causes me to tremble for the safety of my country. Corporations." Corporations, guys, remember, because later on you're going to see how I tie all this in, that corporations are absolutely behind most of the trouble that we're having in the world, and you'll be surprised at who corporations are. Most of Christianity is incorporated. That's a corporation doing business. We'll get to that later. Corporations have been enthroned. An era of corruption in high places will follow, and the money power of the country will endeavour to prolong its reign by working upon the prejudices of the people until the wealth is aggregated in a few hands and the republic, remember that, republic, is destroyed, because Abraham Lincoln was still living in the republic. It's become a democracy because democracy, as I read before, democracy is nothing more than mob rule. Thomas Jefferson, he should know. Big politician. So we notice that he's talking about corporations, okay, and the republic will be destroyed, and all the wealth will be aggregated in the hands of a very, very few people. That's what's happened. $20 billion have gone into the hands of very, very wealthy families around the world, And they're laughing at us. They're laughing at the rest of mankind. And there are 2 billion of humanity starving to death at this very moment, while they drink water out of gold taps. When they turn their taps on, they're touching gold to drink that water, those people. And they're laughing at the rest of mankind. Those 3 people were whacked. Okay? What they exposed to the world, Abraham Lincoln exposed that it's the corporations. JFK exposed that it's the societies, the secret societies. John Lennon exposed what they're up to, manipulating society. They're evil and they're powerful. What I'm going to share with you is the biggest lie that they have perpetuated to mankind. I'm going to expose that lie, and it's got to do with religion and the historicity of a certain Jesus Christ. If you do your studies, you will find, without a doubt, that that is the biggest lie that was ever invented by these evil families, their corporations, because they're all incorporated. All Christian churches are doing business. They are business empires run by the secret hand. The world we live in, doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice, psychiatrists destroy minds, scientists destroy truth, major media destroys information, religions destroy spirituality, and governments destroy freedom. Michael Elner. Arthur Schopenhauer, philosopher. If you want to make someone angry, tell him a lie. If you want to make him furious, tell him the truth. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Secondly, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. Guys, I'd like to have a theme for what I'm going to talk about tonight. And the theme is out of this book here, Humboldt's Cosmos. This guy was a explorer, scientist, and he was one of the first ones in the world to have acknowledged that the continents of Africa and South America were once one continent. So this is the guy, right? He's one of the first ones to acknowledge that. So I'm just pointing that out so that you know that this guy is an important man in history. And this is a great book. Here's the 3 words at the beginning. This is how he introduced his book. Everything is interrelated. Everything is interrelated. All the sciences are one. In our world, where we've gone wrong is that sciences have been separated and compartmentalised and specialised and torn to, just like our religions. Divide and conquer is the reason for that. Every subject, everything, every science is interrelated. Everything is. And secondly, I just want to also read something from this book, Thomas Burgoyne, who wrote in the late 1800s, The Light of Egypt, Volume 1. And this explains how we got into the mess that we're in and how we've allowed it to happen. Speaking about the truth of reality and the truth of appearances, because truth is dual. It's dual nature. There's the truth of reality and there's the truth of appearances. Okay? And he's talking here about how some people believe that they're not deceived and they understand the truth of reality, but in fact they haven't, because their head is full of too much institutionalised science, which is lies. What you learn in your university, what we've been learning since kindergarten, primary, secondary and tertiary education, is virtually just a pack of lies. They are lies. Sure, you can learn how to be a boilermaker, you can learn how to be a scientist, and you can learn all those things, but you're only learning one thing. Most people are specialising in one thing, and they don't realise that all sciences and all knowledge is interrelated. And this is where we are being divided to conquer. We're all belonging to different religions, and therefore we can judge other people and put ourselves on the high horse and believe that we're on the right way, excluding all others. So he says, hence, so far as modern science and theology are concerned, the less the student has, the better it is for him, unless he can use his scientific acquirements merely as aids in climbing the spiritual steps of occultism. What he means by occultism here is not devil worship. He's talking about what's occult.
Hidden.
Hidden. Exactly. So if I teach you something tonight, well, you've learnt it because I've exposed it from a hiding place, from you didn't know where. And now it's not hiding anymore, it's your knowledge. So that's what the occult means. It means it's just hiding, you don't know it yet. So get out and learn it. Get off your bums and learn it. And this is what we've been encouraged to do by all the holy books. Learn deep knowledge, because in deep knowledge there is deep understanding, and then wisdom comes from understanding. Anyway, he goes on to say that you have to empty yourself of all this knowledge, all this trash from institutionalised learning that you've grown up with. And he said, if he can do this, if the person can do this, he will find science a most valuable auxiliary force. But this achievement is an exceedingly rare gift, and one that is seldom found. It is also a most delusive snare, because 9 out of 10 seriously cheat themselves into the belief that they possess this ability, whereas in reality they are woefully deficient. Hence it is always a safe course to mistrust the absolute impartiality of our opinions and reasoning. Before starting out on such a mighty and important undertaking, we must draw the reader's attention to the chief obstacles of the voyage, and the one which will have the greatest difficulty in surmounting. This hidden rock upon which so many otherwise profound students of the occult have become shipwrecked is the non-realization of the duality of truth, viz., the truth of appearances and the truth of realities. The former is relative only, but the latter is absolute. So what I'm going to share with you is some science that's going to help you to understand the truth of reality, okay, to discern the difference. What I want to do is, first I want to start off with some facts about our solar system, because it's in the knowledge of our solar system that we actually get to understand where we are in this universe and how it works. Because our solar system is like an atom. And if you study an atom, you'll notice it's got particles going around, just like the sun has planets going around. And this is what the ancients said: as above, so below. So what I want to do is talk about the 3 fundamental motions of the solar system, okay? Now, we're all aware of the first 2, the 24-hour day. We get a polarity of day and night. We're all aware of the year, 365 days, in which we have basically 2 seasons, really, summer and winter. And if you think about it, what is night and day if it's not summer and winter? And what is summer and winter if it's not night and day? I mean, summer is more light because the sun's higher, so that's day. And winter is less light because the sun is lower, 47 degrees lower, in fact, because of the 23.5 degree tilt in the Earth. Right? So that is night, isn't it? Well, we also live in a 24 to 26,000 year cycle, which is called the Great Year. Now, how many people don't know about the Great Year? Well, I talk to people every day that don't know, and I'm privileged to be able to enlighten them about this year. How do we know we're living in a 24,000 year cycle? Well, it's easy. The stars in the sky that appear fixed, they appear fixed. You know, you can, all your life, you can look at the stars every night, five minutes. You watch the stars and you will notice the patterns. So you look up and you see all these fixed stars, and those patterns stay fixed forever. In your lifetime, you will not see much, you will not see any, in fact, any change at all. If you're observant enough, you will notice one change though, in those star groups. You will notice that every 72 years, you have to live for 72 years, you'll notice, if you've got a very good telescope, and you're really good at measuring, you'll notice that the stars have dropped back 1 degree. 1 degree. Every 72 years, the stars go backwards, west to east, contrary to the normal flow. And what do I mean by that? Well, every day, the stars, like the sun and the moon and the planets, all celestial bodies, all of them, every single celestial body goes east, rises, appears to rise in the east. They all go that way in the celestial river. They all go east to west. Every day they go right around. So if you're looking at Taurus, 12 o'clock, rest assured, at 3 o'clock it'll be over there. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning it'll be over there, and then the next day it will be there. Right? So Taurus is going around, that's because we're spinning. It's not those stars, we're spinning, so therefore they appear to go around once. Every year the same thing happens. Those stars go east to west, all that traffic is east-west. But every 24,000 years, those stars clock back. Every 72 years, 1 degree, until finally, you can round it off to 24,000 years, but there are a lot of scientists who say, and this is a very ancient number, that the cycle of precession is 25,920 years. Okay, so that's the outer figure, and I'm going to show you some figures which will sort of settle it down to that number there. But it's in between. This is the great year. Okay, it's also called the Platonic year because Plato taught us a lot about that year actually. Okay, it's called the great year, right? And what happens with that great year is that at the equinox point, I'll explain this later, but at the equinoctial points, what happens is the 12 star signs that fit in that belt where the sun is always travelling. The sun always travels inside of 12 constellations. They are Virgo, Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. We know them. We know them as star signs, but you know, the zodiac and your horoscope and that. But not many people really realise that the sun is always in that 17 degree belt. It's always in that. It's Aphrodite's belt. And he is the lover of our Aphrodite. He is Dionysus. He is Bacchus. And what I'm going to show you in this is that he is also Jesus, the Son of God. And those 12 constellations happen to be his 12 apostles, just like King Arthur and his 12 knights, and every other hero who had 12 knights. Now this is a big story, and I'm going to prove all of this with some absolutely verifiable and provable facts and truths and science. It's all real. It's all real, guys. Remember the truth of reality and not of appearances. Let's not be deceived, because the institutions have definitely run amok. The corporations have run amok, man. If we don't fix this problem in this world, we don't get that freedom that JFK was talking about. We won't get it. We're not going to get it. And this is the science that is going to really reveal to you how much you've been tricked by some very evil entities that are in government. They're everywhere. And they've got a lot of foot soldiers doing their work for them. Usually they wear suits. You know, like police uniform, policemen. Policemen are supposed to protect the public. Well, the public is the corporations. It's not you. They do a little bit of that. You know, they do a little bit of protecting the public because they have to appear. But they are a corporation, as I will show you. Victoria Police is a corporation registered in New York on the Securities Stock Exchange. I'm going to give you their ABN number and the details of how to find them registered in New York. So when they come knocking on your door, you realise you're doing contract with foreign agents. Okay? We've been tricked big time. This great year, as it goes around, it goes backwards. So the signs of the zodiac, see, we're living in the age of Pisces, are we not? And we're waiting for the age of Aquarius. So we're waiting for the age of Aquarius. And in the 60s, the hippies were saying, oh, it's the age of Aquarius. And yet scientists are saying, no, it's going to start at 2012 when the sun goes through the galactic equator. Or there's other people saying, no, it's still 100 years off because we're in the 29th degree of Pisces. So the sun now is in the 29th. I hope, if my writing is not so visible, guys, make sure you let me correct any writing that is not so good. That's better. Wow. Yeah. Pisces, we're in the 29th degree of Pisces. So once we get out of that, we'll be in Aquarius. That's what most people agree on, right? I think we're going to go into Aquarius very, very soon, at the end of next year, 2012, 21st of December 2012. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, next is Aquarius. Before that was Aries. Aries, and before that was Taurus. Now, if you know your zodiac, your horoscope and everything like that, you always know that it starts with Aries. Always starts with Aries. I'll show you why later. And then it goes to Taurus. It doesn't go this way. It doesn't go that way in time. We're going backwards through, because the age of precession, it's called precession. Precession of the precession of the equinoxes, because the equinox is now in Pisces. It will next be in Aquarius. Okay? Now, one thing to remember, even though I place the March the 21st, you'll see this later, March the 21st in Aries, I put the equinox always on Aries, it does not conflict with what I'm going to show you. Okay? And I'll explain why, but it's a little bit difficult to do it simply right now, but I will do it. But it doesn't matter, the science works, it still works. Everything starts with Aries on the equinox. Okay? But just remember that we're going backwards through the ages. So, how do we get this great wheel? How does it happen? We know how we get the day, and we know how we get the year. That's pretty simple. There's the sun, and it's in the middle of our solar system, right? And all the planets go around. We've got Mercury over here, 88 days. 88 days. Then we've got Venus. Venus over here. So that's Mercury, there's Venus, and they're all going around anti-clockwise, right? Venus, then we've got the Earth. Now, the Earth's going around this way, anti-clockwise. That's why all the stars come up in the east and go around every day and every year they go around. So the star will be in, so it's in Capricorn now. What's today, the 13th of January? Right, so it's in Capricorn. So Capricorn's behind the sun. But on the 21st of January this month, it changes over to Aquarius. It hands over to Aquarius. Right? And then on the 21st of Feb, it'll hand over to Pisces. Now, so that's how that happens. And because we are also rotating every 24 hours, we also, that causes the stars to go around that way every day. All right? They appear to go around. The great year is a backward motion cycle. The stars go backwards, right? This is how it has been explained since the days of Copernicus. It's been explained by a wobble. They say that our Earth, in its 23.5 degree tilt of the axis, they say that it has, that's a bit exaggerated, but they say that it has the axis of the Earth is actually wobbling backwards, right? And that backwards movement is wobbling, and it takes it takes 24,000 to 26,000 years for it to do one cycle, to do one wobble. It's a pretty slow wobble. Now that wobble is there, but according to Walter Crittenden in The Lost Star, now I'm going to be teaching quite a bit out of this right now to prove that we are in a binary with another star, and that star is Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. I'm going to give you some proofs. The wobble is there, definitely acknowledged in this book, The Lost Star of Myth and Time by Walter Crittenden. And he is a scientist that is heading up a team of other scientists around the world who are teaching that we're in a binary, right? I think it was like probably only 50 years ago we thought that there were only 20% of the stars were binaries. Scientists were discovering binaries left, right and centre, and the percentage just keeps going up and up and up. He reckons it's at 80% now. He says in this book that we're up to 80% binary stars, and he says that the only reason why the others are not binaries yet is because we haven't been observing them enough. We can't. We haven't got enough telescopes and stuff like that, but 80% is the fact that it's proven that that stars are binaries. So why would our sun be an exception? Well, it's not, and I'm going to show you that it's not. So this wobble is what they call the precessional wobble. They reckon it takes 24,000 years or thereabouts, and that causes precession. Now, this is the new theory. We've only got two models, by the way, only two scientific models to explain this backward thing that proves that we're in a cycle, because it is a cycle. If the stars all go around once every 24,000 years backwards, that's a cycle, right? So, now, what Walter Crittenden is saying is that we're in a binary with another star and that star fell out of the sky. Now, we're in a binary, and this is the 24,000 year cycle. 24,000 year, or 25,920 year, okay? Now, I'm going to be using that figure there, because there's a lot of good reasons as to why. I might get a chance to explain that later, but I'm going to use that figure there. Nonetheless, you always keep in mind that this is a figure that has been used in conjunction with this cycle. What Walter Crittenden explains in his book is that our two suns, the Sirius, the dog star, the brightest star in the sky, and our sun are in a binary, and they go around clockwise. Woo! Men are like that, they tend to muck it up. Right, so anyway, so this cycle goes around, the sun goes clockwise. It's moving through the heavens clockwise. That's why the stars appear to go the other way, contrary to the normal flow. Now, Sirius was a red star once upon a time, turned blue. I'm going to draw a timeline. Here we are at 2011 over here. Let's put this 1 BCE, and this is 2,000 years BC or BCE. This now, forward of that, this is supposedly the historical Jesus birthday. Okay? 1 BC, or sometimes you see 1 AD or whatever, but it's around there. For the era going this way, you'll have CE, which means common era, or you'll have AD, right? Anno Domini, the year of the Lord. Alright, so, now, around about 2,000 years ago, there was an astronomer called Marcus Manilius. He was the astronomer to Caesar Augustus. He said that Sirius was blue. There he was there's Caesar Augustus, and of course Jesus was born in the reign of Caesar Augustus. Okay, so there we are right there at the other era. And by the way, this is where Aries, this was the age of Aries. Alright? And now this is the age of Pisces, the Christian era. Right? You're going to get a picture of how this works. This is amazing. So it was blue, but Ptolemy in the 2nd century AD told me he reckons it's red. And all the people over here, before this blue, was red. So it was red, because when objects are moving away from each other in the sky, our eyes will only get the red light. It's moving away. And that's called the Doppler effect, I think. I should check that. If I've got it wrong, I'll fix that. But anyway, the Doppler effect. Red shifted means moving away. Blue means coming towards. This is one of the proofs that is offered in the book that we are in a binary. I'm going to show you 4 more. Now, I've got 6 or 7 that are in this book. 6 or 7 great reasons as to why we're in a binary. Great reasons. But I'm going to show you 3 or 4 right now.
Can you just explain before, are we in the Sirius in the red binary now, or the blue star?
Well, Sirius is blue.
Well, you've mentioned after 2 AD that was red.
Good point.
Okay.
Alright, so this is Ptolemy.
So it's a red star now?
No, because then here we've got some guys...
Because you said one before 1 BC was blue.
Yeah, and
Yes. Now this is what happens with stars. Sometimes
But then you've got that arrow going into Aries as red. It should be blue.
Yes, it's always been red. Sirius has always been red. It changed, it turned blue here, then appeared red, and then after this Ptolemaic reference here to it being a red star, it's always been blue, because that's blue.
So why has it gone from red to blue, red, and then blue again? Is that a significant...
This is a puzzle. I've read a lot of literature on this, and it's a big puzzle.
That's a 2-year period. A 200-year period. Sorry.
Thereabouts.
Yeah.
So as Sirius was coming around here and changing its colour, as it was doing that, right, it was obviously reddish, bluish, reddish, blue, and then it just changed. I mean, you know, I don't. There's no explanation for it. They say atmospheric factors or whatever, but there was definitely blue, and then it turned red. And then for a short time, and then it became blue, right? And it's blue, right? Now, so this is one of the reasons. I'm going to get into a few more. Every year on January the 1st, now our orbit around the Sun is an ellipse, right? It's not perfect little circle, it's an ellipse, right? So it's elliptical, and it's like that, right? On January the 1st, every year, we are at this point. It's called perihelion, and it is perihelion means that's the sun. Helios. Remember, Helios is the sun, right? Peri means closest to the sun. Over here, and by the way, that's when we're in Capricorn, the sign of Capricorn. When it's in Cancer, it's at apohelion. Okay? Now, that's over there. What happens on that particular day is that our Sun, our Earth, and Sirius line up on that day, on January the 1st. That's what January the 1st is all about. You know, when people go out to celebrate New Year's Eve, they're out there and they're looking at all these fireworks. It's midnight, right? Bang, and all these fireworks go up. They are there to spoil the show. The real show is Sirius. Sirius, the blue star. You look straight up, anywhere you are around the world, look straight up, you'll see Sirius. And you'll see Orion next to it. The dog is chasing its master Orion. And Orion has 3 belts. 3 stars in his belt. Right? And those 3 stars are pointing to Sirius, which are directly above your head. And directly below your feet is the sun. And this happens every year on January the 1st. And people don't realise. Well, let alone, they're watching all these fireworks, these man-made fireworks, when they could be watching nature in its glory. Sirius is the only thing to pay any attention to. And by the way, those 3 stars, they are the 3 stars, the 3 wise men that came to follow the star from the east, right? Because what happens is on that those stars that come up on January the 1st, and also a week earlier in December, they are the three wise men that are following the star in the east where the sun is born, because the sun is born on the 25th of December, directly under your feet every year on the 25th of December. That's when the solstice is. Now, isn't it interesting that our Earth is at perihelion at this point? Because what we know is that our Earth, now this is how I would describe the orbits of our suns. Our Earth is hurtling towards Sirius, and Sirius is hurtling towards to our sun, hurtling towards our sun. Sorry, I should be putting the sun on that line, shouldn't I? Because it's on that line. Because our sun is rushing towards Sirius, it's obviously pulling that ellipse, isn't it? It must be. Because half of the year, when this is June and this is January, so they're opposed to it. In the June part is 187 days, and this half is 178 days. The sun above the equator is longer than the sun below the equator. That's one proof. Let's go to another proof. Now, it's the best I could do. This is the Great Pyramid in Egypt, the Great Pyramid, okay? It doesn't have a capstone. It doesn't have the top stone, just like the Khafre pyramid that's next to it. It's a little bit taller, and it's a perfect pyramid. This does not have a capstone, but inside this pyramid that's the king's chamber. Okay, that's the king's chamber. That's the queen's chamber. All right. Now this is facing north. This is facing south. Now Sirius is in the south. In the Queen's Chamber there's an air shaft, they call it an air shaft, and it's going south. In the King's Chamber there's an air shaft and it's pointing south. There's another one here pointing... There's another one here pointing north, and then there's another one here pointing north. Two in the King's Chamber, one pointing south, one pointing north. Two in the Queen's Chamber, one pointing south, one pointing north. This one here points to Sirius. That one there points to Sirius. And it always has been. Because Sirius does not precess. While all those stars are precessing in the precessional year of the equinox, Sirius is always there, faithful and true. Because we're in a binary with Sirius. This is the second proof that I will offer tonight. Now, and there are figures in the book too, by the way. I really recommend that you get this book and check it out, because this book really does show that we're in a binary. The third proof is time deltas. That's better. Time delta. What's a time delta? Well, you see these pies, and they give you a little bit of a delta. This is 20% of something, and this is 80%. Right? That's a little pie, a slice of the pie. That's a delta, like a river delta, because it looks like the letter delta in the Greek alphabet, or the modern D. It's a D. Delta comes from D, so it still looks like the delta, right? A river delta. Now, what's a time delta though? We put the sun there and we put the Earth going around the sun, and we've got a moon that goes around us. And that moon goes around every 29.5 days. It takes to go from that point there back to that point there. No, sorry. I'll correct that. It's the other way around. It takes 29.5 days to fulfill its synodic phase. The synodic moon cycle. What's that? Well, it's the it's all of that. From new moon to full moon. So there's the moon waxing, there's quarter moon waxing, there's full moon, and there's quarter moon waning, and then there's the new moon. Okay? Now, it takes 29.5 days to do that. But to go from here to that point is 27.2 days. So to go right around the Earth takes 27.2 days. But for the moon to fulfill its phases from new moon to new moon or from full moon to full moon is 29.5 days. So we've got 2.2 time delta. There's a difference of 2.2 days. There's a difference of 2.2 days, right? So what that is they call that a time delta. Like that. Now, why is that? Well, let me explain why that is. Because the moon will take 27 days to go right around, but by the time it goes right around, our Earth has done 30 degrees. Because in 30 days, the moon, the Earth has gone 30 degrees around the sun. So what's happened is that catch-up is represented in these 2.2 days. Okay, do I need to explain that again? Because I feel I didn't do justice to that.
See, what you're saying is the time that the Earth travelled around the sun that's 2.2 days for that period the moon travels around the Earth to get that full delta.
Yes. So the moon will go right around the Earth in 27.2 days, but for it to fulfill its phases, it'll take 29.5 days. Because there's a lag. Because of... Excuse me. How to explain that is that there is a... because the Earth is curving. The Earth is curving, so it's got to catch up. It's pretty much like, your athletics field and track. They're like this, right? And there's all these concentric circles, right? When this guy starts off over here, and this guy starts over here, and this guy starts over here, and then this guy starts over here, right? That's not unfair to this guy, because this guy's going to go around this curve real quick, and this guy's got double the distance, and this guy too. So it's because of the curve. Now the Earth is curving around the sun. Therefore the moon will take exactly 2.2 days to fulfill, longer than 27.2 to fulfill its synodic cycle. That's a time delta. Now, our Earth has a time delta. As we go around the sun, and as our sun goes around Sirius, there's a 20-minute time delta. So, as with the time delta with the moon, because of the curving of the Earth around the sun, because our sun is also curving in an orbit around Sirius, there will be a time delta, and there is in fact 20-minute time delta. So the tropical year, or the solar year, what they call the solar year, is 365 days, 0.25, thereabouts, right? That's the tropical solar year, but the sidereal year, that's not very good writing, is it? I'll just check the spelling here. Sidereal year, that is 20 minutes longer. So if you're watching the sun every year come up, every year at the same spot, the tropical, if you're following the tropical year or the solar year, and you're paying attention to the stars, you will notice that the stars take 20 minutes longer every year to come up also at that same spot. So how that is explained in the lost star is that our sun must be curving. That's another proof that we're in a binary. Alright, now that's about all I want to that's all the graphs that I want to do to talk about the binary. What I want to do is now read a few works from scholars that have spoken about the binary. You know about this one, I know, because I've shared this one with you, but Sri Yukteswar in the 1800s, the Hindu, or the Indian scholar rather, he said that in the early pages of this book, he said, we learn from Oriental astronomy that moons revolve around their planets, and planets turning on their axes revolve with their moons around the sun, and the sun with its planets and their moons takes some star for its jewel and revolves round it in about 24,000 years of our Earth, a celestial phenomenon which causes the backward movement of the equinoctial points round the zodiac. I'm now quoting from a book, Christianity Before Christ, by John G. Jackson. And in that book, on page 183, now I'm sharing this information, it's just information and it's scientific. I'm sharing this with you just to show you how, as Humboldt said, everything is interrelated. Okay, so if we can interrelate everything, we get a picture of reality as it really is. So we're not going to be fooled by our institutions. Here is a quote from George R. Goodman from The Age of Unreason, an article in the Freethinker, volume 135, page 182. It was written in the 40s, I believe, last century. Our entire solar system, with all its planets and moon, describes a huge circle round another sun in space, viz. The star Sirius. This movement takes 25,920 years, that's the figure I put up there before, to complete, and during that time our sun appears to traverse through various constellations or star clusters. This was already known to the ancient, from China to Mexico and from Babylon to Egypt. Albert Churchward, also writing in the 18th century. All these guys are from the 18th century. Interesting. Anyway, he says, our sun was thrown off from another sun around which it revolves, taking 25,827 years to perform its cycle of 1 year. The one great year of the Egyptians. So he's giving a figure of 25,827. Now just pay attention to this though. What he said was, our sun was thrown off from another sun around which it revolves. Okay? Thrown off. And that's Sirius, obviously. And that's what the legends say, that our sun was thrown off from Sirius. Joseph A. Cease, The Gospel in the Stars. Interesting subject, isn't it? I'm going to talk about this later on. Interesting title. Here he says in the introduction, Sirius alone gives out nearly 400 times as much light as the sun, and yet Sirius is a star of moderate size among the stars. The Sun is no more to many other stars than one of our smaller planets is to it. We know that the Sun turns on its axis as the Earth turns, and that it is ever moving on a journey around some transcendently greater centre, just as the Earth and other planets revolve around it as their centre. Now I just want to read one more. This is an interesting source. This is Thy Kingdom Come, from the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, Charles Taze Russell, and he knew about this cycle. This is what he had to say. And he gave the same figure as the last book I read from. He said that the cycle astronomers have concluded to be 25,827 years. Commenting upon the scientific testimony of the location of this majestic witness, Reverend Joseph Cease suggests, they must have been buddies, that's Joseph Cease. And as Charles Taze Russell is quoting from this book, all right, because they've got the same figure for precession, 25,827 years. But this is a very, very interesting source. I'm just reading this because it's just so interesting how these religious people were thinking in the 1800s when they discovered, or they started to discover, that we are in a binary, and that information has been withheld from us for a long, long time. And there's a reason. Because if we realise that we're in a binary, and we realise that we are in this 24,000 year great cycle, we will understand all things. We will understand everything. Everything. And he says, the Sun is not a dead centre with planets wheeling about it and itself stationary. So he's saying the Sun's just not stationary out there. It's also moving at great speeds. He says, it is now ascertained that the Sun also is in motion, carrying with it its splendid retinue of comets, planets, its satellites, and theirs around some other and vastly mightier centre. Astronomers are not yet fully agreed as to what or where that centre is. Some, however, believe that they have found the direction of it to be the Pleiades. Please remember that, the Pleiades. That's the little star cluster right next to Taurus, which is next to Orion, which is next to Sirius. So we have all these beautiful stars. So in Taurus you'll see the Pleiades and you'll see the Hyades. The Hyades are the head of Taurus. And the Pleiades that Russell is talking about, they stand between Taurus and Aries. Very important fact to keep in mind. Okay? Some, however, believe that they have found the direction of it to be the Pleiades, and particularly Alcyone, the central one of the renowned Pleiadic stars. Alcyone is the most prominent star of the Pleiades. They're called the Seven Sisters. Beautiful little cluster. It looks like the crown jewels of the skies. And the Bible talks about them. And in the Bible, that allusion that it's making to the Pleiades has to do with Halloween, the hallowed days. Because when the Pleiades are directly above, on November the 1st, Halloween Day, we celebrate Halloween, the hallowed days, because the Pleiades and its sweet influence is directly above us. There's no sun to block out its light. We can see the crown jewels of the sky, the Pleiades in Taurus, on November the 1st. And the reason why they go around with the pumpkin heads and all the lights and holding up little fires and everything like that is because they say that the veil between the material and the spiritual world is thinnest at those days, because November the 1st is a cross-quarter day. Now do your homework about finding out and understand what a cross-quarter day is. There are 8 holy days in the year. 4 of them are the equinoxes and the solstices, and then the ones that go in between. Let me explain that to you. This is how they work. That's the cross. These are the 2 solstices. These are the equinoxes. And if you draw a line straight down the middle, here you've got March 21st. Here you have June 21st. Here you have September 21st. You can put 23rd if you want, doesn't matter, but it's because this is the funny day. This one's out, but these are always the 21st. Right, these are your two solstices and these are your two equinoxes and these are the cross-quarter days. Here you have May Day, May the 1st. Here you have November the 1st, Halloween's Day. And here you have December, February. And over here you have June, July. Is it July or August? June, July, August. The first, Beltane's Day. These are the cross-quarter days. These are the 8 holiest days of the year. I'll show you why later. So what he's saying, though, is very interesting because they had a belief at the end of the 1800s that God lives in Alcyone, in the Pleiades. Now, when I teach you the science that I'm going to teach you that has been obscured and suppressed for about 3,000 years now, I'm going to teach you that over here, this is Aries, the sign of Aries. And this is Taurus. And this is Gemini. Okay? The Pleiades are about here. In Taurus, the Pleiades, and the Hyades are over here. Now we know from astrology that this is the head. That's the head of the man in the sky. This is the arms, the two twins, Gemini. Cancer is the chest. Leo is the heart, and it goes down. Aries is in the head, Pisces is in the feet, right? So the Pleiades, where God rules, corresponds to the pineal gland, and that is the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the top one, the top gland of our chakra system. Okay, it's the governor. It governs the whole endocrine system, our 7 spiritual organs, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But he goes on to say here, Alcyone then, as far as science has been able to perceive, would seem to be the midnight throne in which the whole system of gravitation has its central seat. Now, I'm not reading that to say to you that I believe that. I'm just showing you what people thought about our star system. For some reason, they all believe, and Sirius is here. So you've got Sirius about here in Cancer, and Gemini, it's sort of about here. Here is Orion, and here is Taurus. And there's the Pleiades. These are the brightest stars in the skies. This is the most wonderful story. If you watch these stars at night, there are no brighter than these stars. And over here is, Canopus is over here too, in Argo. From Canopus, the second brightest star in the sky, to Sirius right next to it, to the 3 wise men in Orion's belt over here, to the Pleiades, you've got the most beautiful stars you'll ever see. And 2 of them are red. And they're both in Taurus. One is Aldebaran in Taurus, right? And Aldebaran, yes, it's in Taurus. It's the eye of the bull, the red eye of the bull. It's a red star, Aldebaran. And the other one is right next to it, called Betelgeuse, in Orion. Now I believe, because that's where the head is, I believe that, and I've got some sources, that some very ancient sources too, by the way, that they represent the 2 hemispheres of the brain, because those 2 red stars are in the head. Because as I'll show you later, the head is here. Okay guys, I want to progress. That's enough about the solar system, but I urge you please to study the solar system, make models of the solar system, understand the solar system, because it's in the knowledge of the solar system that a lot will be revealed to you that has been hidden, that must be known. It really must be known for your own benefit. Okay, so there are other reasons and other proofs that we're in a binary, and she'll have to give them another time because I don't have enough time. We're just running out of time. Now, in philosophy and in science, we have the Platonic solids. Okay, there are 5 of them, and they correspond to the 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire, and ether. Right? Ether is known to be a dodecahedron. Fire is known to be tetrahedron. Now this is known to all Empedocles, Aristotle, all the Neoplatonic philosophers, Plato, Hermes. This is science, okay? Now, in atomic theory, scientists know that atoms will take these shapes, these four shapes, right? The icosa meaning 20, water, so liquid atoms. And the hex has six-sided. I do have a picture of that. Okay. So these are the platonic solids. Okay. Tetrahedron, cube or the hex, octahedron, dodecahedron, icosahedron. Now, these correspond, a unit of fire is a photon, a unit of light. That's what the sun gives us, photons. And because of that, we have the process of photosynthesis, which sustains life. The sun, the fire, is the sustainer of life. That's the old philosophy. And it's new science too. You know, only a moron would not know that. The sun is our source, direct source of light in our natural solar system, in our nature. And the particle corresponds with the octahedron, the atom corresponds with the icosahedron, and the molecule corresponds with the hexahedron. Now, the reason I'm giving you this is that these are the four building blocks of the universe. Ether, which is invisible, is where these, the four sub-ether elements come from. They come from this. This is the origin, this is the cause, this is the effect. And this is how the effect takes place. Everything you see is an effect from the causal world. Now, you will notice fours in everything. Alright, I'm going to give you a whole series of fours. I can't dwell on them for too long because I'm already really lagging behind here. Our body is made up, 96% of our body is made up of four elements, four types of atom, four atoms. The nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen and carbon. That is 96% of our body. We have trace elements, we have other elements, but so you see four. And nitrogen corresponds with fire, oxygen corresponds with air, hydrogen corresponds with water, carbon corresponds with earth. This gives us nitrogen, this gives us temperature, this gives us cohesion, this gives us motion, and this gives us solidity. We also have the four elementals of Paracelsus, the Vulcani, they are the fire elements, the Sylvestres, the air elements, the Undines, the water element, and the Gnomes, the earth element, or otherwise known as salamanders, sylphs, nymphs, and pygmies. We have the four Hippocratic humours. They are blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. And we've got the four personality types: the phlegmatic, the sanguine, the choleric, and the melancholic. So, I mean, I can go on. There's four blood types. We have 4 limbs and 1 head. 4 limbs and 1 head. The mercury, sulfur, azoth, and salt also correspond to these. The list of fours go on and on and on and on. They are the 4 building blocks of the universe. Now, what's a hex? Okay. That's a hex. What happens when you flat pack a hex? That's the shape you get when you flat pack a hex. Earth, molecule, solidity, that's the cross. That is the holy cross, the cross of matter, the hex. We've been hexed down here, sub-ether. We come from here. We come from the causal world, and we have these four elements we are made of. We are made of light, particles, atom, molecules. We are made of these four elements that correspond to this. Alright, so we are light, we are liquid, we are solid, and we are air. Again, light, air, liquid, and solid. Bones. These are the four building blocks, okay? And this is at the bottom, the hex. This hex is at the bottom. The Japanese kanji for earth. This is the Chinese and Japanese kanji for earth. The cross. Carbon. Where is carbon? At the bottom. Representing earth. That's at the bottom. Solidity. What's the elemental numbers for carbon? Carbon has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. 666. It's carbon. The mark of the beast. It's the mark of man. It's the number of a man. Because men are solid. That we were spiritual. But our soul has gravitated to the material world. This is how it works. This is the science, okay? Now, this is where I'm merging the old science, because this is science. I'm merging it with the new. That's about enough with the... Keep these in mind. I'm going to keep this board up because we're going to be referring to this all the time. These are the building blocks of the universe, guys. Carbon is the hex. 666 is the cross. That's what the mark of the man is, the mark of the beast. I mean, you've got these guys with all these weird and wonderful ideas about 666. Now, I've heard it was the Pope. I heard it was the Catholic religion. I heard it was the credit card. I've heard that it was the barcodes. I've heard... How many theories have you heard about 666? I reckon there's about a good 1,000. It's carbon. Now, let's go and let's spend probably about 5 minutes on Fibonacci. Phi. We know pi is 3.1.141 and phi is 1.618. But these are irrational numbers. They are transcendental numbers. They go on and on and on and on and on. They never zero out. They never finish. And so they say that they're not from this dimension. They're irrational numbers. And these are the building blocks of the universe, because this energy uses these ratios. This is called the golden ratio, okay? This is the golden ratio. 800 years ago, probably one of my ancestors, I don't know, I doubt it, had the same surname, Leonardo Bonacci. His nickname was Fibonacci. Fi means the son of. Now, Fibonacci, he discovered this ratio by adding 1 plus 1, and then the next number in the series would 1 plus 1 would equal 2, right? And then 1 plus 2 would equal 3. 2 and 3 are 5. 3 and 5 are 8. 5 and 8 are 13. 8 and 13 are 21. Oops. 21. 34. 55.
89.
Good one. And what's the magic number over here?
144.
Yeah. 144. Right? Keep that in mind. It's a very, very holy number. I'm going to show you a lot about numbers. In the Bible, there's always 12. There's always 72. There's always 4. There's always 3. And there's always 7. There's 40. 30. 30 days of the month. 40 is also in this, and I'll explain that. Sorry?
It rained for 40 days and 40 nights.
Everything happens. Moses was in the wilderness, they were in the wilderness for 40 days, Jesus was tempted for 40 days. He didn't ascend after he was resurrected for 40 days, so he hung around for 40 days. 40 days. Everywhere. Wow. Now, why am I mentioning this? Well, I've shown some pictures. There's some wonderful pictures that you can see with the Fibonacci ratio. Everything, almost everything unfurls at that rate. It's in nature, it's in architecture. The beautiful ratio at which the nature unfurls. How do we get that? How does that happen? Well, here's some hints as to how it happens. Why are we manifesting with these shapes? Why are we manifesting in this way? Well, as I showed you the solar system before, there's the solar system, there's Mercury, there's Venus, there's Earth, there's Mars. They are the only 4 solid planets in our solar system. The only 4 solid planets. These are gas. And they're made up more or less of they're made up more or less of the same elements as the Sun. Hydrogen and then a mixture of helium. These are gas balls, guys. The monsters, Jupiter and Saturn, these two monsters are just gas balls, just like the Sun. Okay? Now, as they go around, all these orbits, Mercury takes 88 days to go around the Sun, 225 days to go around the Sun, 365, 2 years, 12 years, 30 years, 187 years, I think. Or no, it's 84 years, 180 years, and Pluto's about 248 years, right? Pluto is no longer a planet. And these are not visible to the naked eye, these beautiful planets outside of the 7. From our perspective on Earth, we have the moon that we can see, so we include that in the 7, which give us the 7 days of the week. We have the sun, which gives us Sunday, and these are the gods, so to speak, of our solar system. Let me introduce you to them. The sun, Sunday. Mercury is Wednesday. Thank you. Venus is Friday. Mars is Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturn is Saturn Day, or Saturday. These are the 7, what's known as the Elohim in the Bible. These are the 7 cosmocrators. And they say in Genesis, let us make man in our image. Because this is an atom. We're living in an atom. It's like a big atom. And it generates life. Souls are attracted to this planet. And are evolved on this planet. And then souls depart. But whilst we're here, it's these 7 that give us the form and the shape that we have. And how does that happen? Well, if you study the relationship between the planets, you'll find that they're all making these beautiful patterns. Look at these wonderful patterns. Have a look at these very, very carefully. Right? That's Mercury and Venus. As Mercury and Venus interact, they make this sort of a 3-leaf clover shape in the heavens every time they go around each other. There's Mercury and Earth. Look at this beautiful shape. How's this one? Mercury interacting with Jupiter. Mercury and Saturn. Here's Venus and Mars. What about Venus and the Earth? See the pentagram? Venus and the Earth? Let's spend a little bit of time on Venus and the Earth. I'm just going to give you some small examples as to how our solar system is structured for phi, the golden ratio, the golden section. There's the Sun. There's Venus. Venus goes around 13 times to our 8 times, and as it races around 13 times and our planet goes around slowly, there are certain nodal points which they join up. And it makes a pentagram. There's the pentagram. Because Venus goes around 13 times around the Sun, which is at the centre. And the Sun and our Earth goes around exactly 8 times, and this 5-shaped star is where they conjunct as they go around. They will only meet because Venus is going around so fast and our Earth is going around so slowly that when they catch up to each other, you get one of these points. Right? So you've got 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 8, and you have 13. These are Fibonacci numbers. So we can see just how one planet gives us the right geometric forms for us to manifest with Fibonacci numbers. We cannot but manifest on this Earth by these. I'll just leave that on the camera a little bit longer so that people can just... There's Mars, Saturn. There's Mars and Jupiter. There's the Earth and Jupiter. That's a beautiful pattern. That's what they do. Now, we cannot perceive the planets going around, but they are flying around the Sun. They are absolutely flying around the Sun, and that's pretty much the proportions. The Sun is 99.99% the mass of the solar system. The rest of the planets mean squat, nothing. But in respect to us, they do mean a lot, because the patterns that they scribe around the Sun are all geometric forms which give us our shape on this planet. And you notice the correspondence that our Sun has about 7 or 8 or 9 planets going around it. On the periodic table, oxygen, nitrogen and carbon. Carbon, as I said to you before, has 6 protons. Hydrogen, I think, is 7 and nitrogen is 8. It might be the other way around. It might be nitrogen 7 and hydrogen 8. Nonetheless, these 3 are 6, 7 and 8 in order, which is around about how many planets we have on our solar system. Everything is interrelated. Remember Saturn? We talked about the hex. Saturn, that is a gas planet. I think this is a picture from the Voyager. And you'll notice the hex. The hex is the Star of David. This is a real picture. This is a real picture on Saturn. And Saturn has always been known to be old Kronos, the Grim Reaper, who hexes you. Okay? These guys knew their science. And there's a lot of proof, and I'm going to give you so many proofs that are going to be coming out of your ears. I do want to show you one more thing about the Fibonacci ratios. And how we get our proportions of 5 here on the Earth. Remember I told you that the Sun always comes up in a 17-degree belt. Right? And I'll tell you why. The Sun will never be outside of this. This is the zodiac, right? So let's say it's in Capricorn at the moment. It's in Capricorn. Capricorn is 30 degrees long. All the 12 signs of the zodiac get 30 degrees. Okay? But every sign is only 17 degrees wide. Now how you get that is our Sun has a plane. And all the planets, most of the planets are not on the same inclination as that plane. The Sun's travelling on a plane. But our Earth is actually very inclined. Our Earth is the most inclined of all the orbits around the Sun, except for Pluto. But Pluto has now been demoted, right? So our Earth is 7.1 degrees off that plane of the Sun. And that gives the Sun 17 degrees of space, it's always going to be, the sun's always going to be in that sort of,
Belt?
in the belt. Exactly, that's the width of Aphrodite's belt. Okay, so we've got 17 degrees. We've got 30 degrees that way. And just to add one more thing to this, you'll remember this graph of mine. That's the Earth, that's the equator, that's the Tropic of Cancer, that's the Tropic of Capricorn. How many degrees is it from there to there? Well, it's got to be 47 degrees because the Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees. 23 that way and 23 that way gives you 47. 17 plus 30 gives you 47. These are Fibonacci ratios. So as the sun goes around on that, as the Earth goes around the sun on that inclination, in 30-degree slots as it goes around every year, and it does this sine wave because the sun goes up to the Tropic of Cancer, down to the Tropic of Capricorn, back up from summer to winter every year. It does this ratio. Everywhere in our solar system is Fibonacci. It's the universal fractal. Okay, guys, we're going to have a break because we're going to get into what I call the holy science after the break, and explain to you how all this is interrelated and how it comes together and how we can find some solutions because of the corruption of our institutions and the lies and the suppression of this knowledge. Where we left off was the science, okay? Now what I want to do is show how we can apply all this and see how everything is interrelated. I've got a graph. This is the graph. That's the Earth, okay? That's the equator. That's the Tropic of Cancer. That's the Tropic of Capricorn, okay? So from the Northern Hemisphere perspective, this is summer, when the sun... Have you ever noticed this sine wave? It actually goes right around the globe. So if you've got a globe of the Earth, just check one out when you go to the globe stores where they sell the globes of the Earth. Check it out. Usually they don't have this sine wave on there, but you'll find some that still have it. What you'll have is the globe, then you'll have the equator going around the centre, and they'll show you the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and they'll show you a sine wave, this sine wave, going all the way around the globe once, okay? Now, this is the journey of the sun as it goes from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn every year, right? Now, this point here, when the sun crosses the equator, because we can actually do this, right? Let's go like this, make it a circle. And we can do the same over here. It's a figure 8, all right? It goes forever. If we put March the 21st over here, this point here, the longest day of the year is June the 21st, right? And this makes the solstice, the longest day of the year. This point over here is December the 21st, the shortest day of the year, from the Northern Hemisphere perspective, of course. Don't forget, we're all here in Australia, we're down here, it's the opposite. It doesn't matter, the science is this way. Over here, this is September. I don't want to do that. I want to put September the 21st over here. So you've got March the 21st, the equinox, June the 21st, the solstice, September the 21st, the equinox, the autumnal equinox, and then you've got December the 21st, the summer solstice. Winter. Summer, winter. And that's because our Earth the axis of the Earth is 23.5 degrees. So the Sun has to go 23.5 degrees north of the equator and 23.5 degrees south of the equator every year. Okay? Now, what we have here is we have two cycles. You've got to look at it this way. This is the cycle of life, this is the cycle of death. Because this is where photosynthesis happens. This is the springtime going up to the summer. So you've got all the hot months here, right? And Cancer is the middle. This is the midsummer's day, right? So the sun will be in Cancer for 30 degrees for 30 days. Cancer. There's the sign of Cancer, right? Next is Leo. And then there's Virgo. These are the summer months. Aries, Taurus, Gemini. These are the spring months. These are all these deltas, these slices of the pie at 30 degrees. So when you see that the sun, in the Northern Hemisphere, when you see that the sun is in the sign of Cancer, because if there's Cancer behind the sun, it's June, July. As the sun goes below the equator, when it goes below the equator, you have Libra. And then you have Scorpio. And then you have Sagittarius. Then you have Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. If you keep going, you've got Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. So you can see this is the figure 8. And later I'm going to show you that our numbers 1, 2, 3, they all come from this. Everything comes from this. All of it. 1, I'll just show you this. 1 is this line here of the ecliptic, and a line going down to the equator in Aries. That's where 1 comes from. 2, the eye of the bull. Remember the red eye of the bull, Aldebaran? That's 2. That's where 2 comes from. Gemini, the twins, and the sun in Gemini makes 3. 4 is from here. You've got a 4 shape and the cross goes here for 4. There's your 4. 7 is here because this is the 7th month. There's your 7. 8 is the sun above the equator and the sun below the equator. That's what the figure 8 is. That's the sun above the equator, that's the sun below the equator. It's all from the sun. I'm going to go into this later. And if you want to learn about that, the numbers that they come from here, you need to read this book here, The Devil's Pulpit, by Reverend Robert Taylor. He wrote this in the 1830s. He went to jail twice for teaching what I'm about to teach you tonight. And most of what I know comes from this. Okay? He went to jail twice because you don't teach this stuff and get away with it. You die. You get to die. Because this science is very, very powerful, what I'm going to show you. Very powerful. And go to page 283 and you can learn about the numbers. Okay? Now they come from this. Everything comes from this. Everything. All our science, all our languages, everything comes from this. All of it. The whole lot. Everything that's in the Bible comes from this. Jesus is the Son and he has 12 disciples. Now, to do this, you can start with Aries over here in the east and go that way. That's fine. I choose to go this way and there's good reasons for doing it. Therefore, I'm going to start with Aries over here, not over here. Okay? So, just to keep things simple, I'm going to sort of blot that out, just so you don't get confused. Now, this part here is green because of photosynthesis. This is all green. Okay? Over here we have red because when the sun falls, and the fall is another word for autumn, the sun falls below the equator, the leaves start to turn red and everything is red. Right? That's why they say, they look around in autumn, in September, and they see the red leaves that were once green and they say, oh, the sun is passing through the Red Sea, or the sun is going down to hell. This is hell. This is where the sun dies on the 21st of December. It's the shortest day of the year. Up here you get to live. This is life. Everybody loves this. This corresponds with the 7 candelabra of the Jews, the menorah. This is it, according to Josephus. I'm going to read to you from Josephus soon. The opposite of live would be, what's the mirror image of live? Live backwards is evil. This is good, this is bad, okay? Good, take out 1, 0, you've got God, put a D there and you've got devil. This is where our story of God and the devil and this fight, this war that God has with Satan. Oh, he's always fighting against Satan. Can't seem to conquer him. But this is how misled we have become. That this cycle of good, where you live, and evil should be physical. It's insane. It's insanity. I'm not saying that there's not evil entities. There are evil spirit creatures and there are evil human, physical creatures, but it's got nothing to do with Satan and devil. That's a Christian fiction. Okay? Satan, the devil and his demons and all these armies of bad angels, that's a fiction. Okay? And it's used to suppress us. This is hell. This is the devil, this cycle here. Because the ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius is Saturn in astrology, and Saturn is Satan because he rules down here. The sun rules in Leo. The sun's kingdom is here, the kingdom of heaven. This is Jesus' kingdom. This is Satan's kingdom, his opposer. And when you look at it, if the sun rules here, the opposite is where Saturn rules. Jesus, J-E-S in the Bible means the sun. Or, fire. The fire, the sun, rules his kingdom in the paradise of heaven. Satan rules the underworld. So does Osiris and Poseidon and Hades and all those dark lords. And the red dragon. There's a red star in Scorpio. And Scorpio is a dragon. When you see that constellation in the sky, Scorpio, you know it's a dragon. It's magnificent. It is the most magnificent constellation. And it has a star in it called Antares. And it's red. Okay? You see how big our sun is in comparison to Mercury? That's how big Antares is as compared to our sun. But not in this scale, even more. Antares is like a million suns of our size, okay? And it's red. This is the great red dragon. The great red dragon is always fighting against the bull and Osiris. This opposition is the kingdom of light in the springtime fighting against the kingdom of darkness. The dark red lord. And this is the red dragon. You can't mistake it. If you know your stars, you will know that that's the great red dragon. And he rules in the red kingdom. Satan is red. Down here in the Red Sea. This is also considered to be Egypt. So this cycle of living and dying, good and evil, explains everything. It explains absolutely everything. All our fairy tales are here. Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood gets swallowed by the wolf. Because this represents the day and this represents the night. The summer, the winter. So what we do is we put 6 a.m. over here, 12 midday, 6 p.m. over here, 12 I don't know why. Yeah. 12, so you've got sun rising, midday, then the sun is about to set, it turns red. Little Red Riding Hood turns red every day, pretty much every sunset, not every sunset, but you see a lot of red sunsets. That's Little Red Riding Hood. And the wolf is the darkness that eats her. Not only is it the darkness, it's also the winter, because the winter, remember, the sun is red at this time. Let's see about Little Red Riding Hood. The story of Little Red Riding Hood is mutilated in the English version, but known more perfectly by old wives in Germany who can tell that the lovely little maid in her shining red satin cloak was swallowed by her grandmother, by the wolf, till they both came out safe and sound when the hunter cut open the sleeping beast. Compare Tom Thumb, who was swallowed by the cow and came out unhurt. The story of Sakdiva, swallowed by the fish and cut out again in Somadiva, Bhagavata. And the story of Jonah, who swallowed by the whale. They're all the same myth. This is the fish. Capricorn's the fish goat, swallows the sun. The sun gets swallowed by the fish. This is the underworld. Little Red Riding Hood, as it has told in our nursery tales, Little Red Riding Hood is the evening sun, which is always described as red or golden. By the way, I'm reading out of Fairy Tales, Their Origin and Meaning by John Thackeray Bunce. And this was written in the late 1800s again. Wow, I've got a fixation with books from the 1800s here. Which is always described as red or golden. The sun, always described as red or golden. Old grandmother is the earth, to whom the rays of the sun bring warmth and comfort. The wolf, which is a well-known figure for the clouds and blackness of night, is the dragon in another form. First he devours the grandmother, that is, he wraps the earth in thick clouds, which the evening sun is not strong enough to pierce through. Then with the darkness of night he swallows up the evening sun itself, and all is dark and desolate. Then, as in the German tale, the night thunder and the storm winds are represented by the loud snoring of the wolf. And then the huntsman, the morning sun, comes in all his strength and majesty. The morning sun comes in all his strength and majesty and chases away the night clouds and kills the wolf and revives old grandmother earth and brings Little Red Riding Hood to life again. Or another explanation may be that the wolf is the dark and dreary winter that kills the earth with frost and hides the sun with fog and mist, and then the spring comes with the huntsman and drives winter down to his ice caves again and brings the earth and the sun back to life. So we see our nursery rhymes. I'm going to show you a whole bunch more of nursery rhymes. So this is the cycle that was observed, and all these signs told you in the agricultural year what to do, when to plant, but it also had this story, this gospel, and you'll see that the gospels are also wrapped up in this circle. The Gospels always start with the sun in a manger. The manger is Capricorn, because directly above there's a manger in Cancer. There's a little asterism in Cancer called the manger. Capricorn has always been known as Golgotha, the place of the skull, the place of dying. This is the place of dying, because when the sun comes down, it dies in the winter. That's death. The evil the evil part of the cycle. And it's ruled by Satan. Saturn, he rules under here. Okay? The sun, Jesus, rules up here, above. It's always the sun. Believe me. Everything is the sun, as I will show you. The story of Cinderella helps us to find out the meaning of our fairy tales and takes us straight back to the far-off land where fairy legends began, and to the people who made them. Cinderella and Rodopi, the Hindu Raja's wife, and the like, are but different forms of the same ancient myth. It is the story of the sun and the dawn. Cinderella, grey and dark and dull, is all neglected when she is away from the sun. Obscured by the envious clouds, her sisters, and by her stepmother, the night. So she is Aurora, the dawn, and the fairy prince is the morning sun, ever pursuing her to claim her for his bride. Speaking about all these fairy tales that have come from the East, this gentleman here says, they all mean the same things. That is, the relation between the sun and the earth, the succession of day and night. What else do we observe? It's dark now. Tomorrow it will be light. This is the most obvious feature, the most obvious striking feature of nature, day and night. There are other phenomena like volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, lightning, tornadoes, earthquakes. The succession of day and night, of winter and summer, of storm and calm, of cloud and tempest, and golden sunshine and bright blue sky. And this is the source from which we get our fairy stories. For underneath all of them, there are the same fanciful meanings, only changed and altered in the way of putting them, by the lapse of ages of time, by the circumstances of different countries, and by the fancy of those who kept the wonderful tales alive without knowing what they meant. Then he goes on to say that Perseus, in his weary, endless journey, the light pursuing and scattering the darkness, the glittering hero, remember Perseus, who slays Medusa? Medusa's the night. When Perseus comes up, all the stars run away. When the sun comes up in the morning, all the stars, 1,000 stars, that's what they say, they round it off to a number of 1,000 stars. That's why Samson, with a jawbone, he kills 1,000 Philistines. It's always 1,000. Because the sun coming up kills his 1,000. King David killed his thousands. So did King Saul, they killed their thousands. Right? Because when the sun comes up, all the stars hide. He is the hero, he is the superstar, he smashes his enemies. That's Perseus killing Medusa. The glittering hero, borne by the mystic sandals of Hermes, bearing the sword of the sunlight, piercing the twilight, or gloaming in the land of the mystic grey, slaying Medusa, the solemn star-lit night, destroying the dark dragon, and setting free Andromeda, the dawn maiden, and doing many wonders more. Or in Hermes, we might trace out the master thief of Teutonic and Scandinavian and Hindu legends. Or Heracles, the type of heroes who are God, like in their strength, yet who do the bidding of others, and who suffer toil and wrong and die glorious deaths, and leave great names for men to wonder at. Heroes such as Odysseus and Theseus, and Phoebus, and Achilles, and Sigurd, and Arthur. All the heroes get it in the heel. Krishna got an arrow in the heel. Christ got a nail in the foot. Achilles gets it in the heel and dies here. All the heroes live and then die. This is how it works. The hero is born, like Jesus in the manger. And then you don't hear from Jesus until he's 12. Because when the sun goes up to 12 o'clock, That's when he is found. That's why Mary and Joseph, after 3 days, they couldn't find Jesus. They went back and he said, where do you think I would be? I'm in the temple of my Father at 12 o'clock, directly above. That's why you hear about Jesus at the age of 12. And it also has to do with our solar system, because our solar system is governed by 2 planets, Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the Sun. Saturn takes around about 30 years. That's why Jesus is not heard of between the age of 12 and 30, because it has to do with Saturn and Jupiter. It's Saturnian. It's the Sun, and it's Saturn, and it's Mars and Mercury, and all the 7. They always turn up in all our stories. Okay? So what happens is the Son begins as a little boy, and he grows up and he conquers all his enemies, and here is the mark of conquering. Just please notice the cycle of the moon now. Okay? When you compare the cycle of the moon, here the moon dies at the new moon. It's black, you can't see the new moon. You surely can't see the full moon. It's beautiful. Now, as the moon climbs up and reaches quarter moon, that's the Sun. They're doing the same thing. The Sun and the moon, they are Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Okay? It's always the hero and his lover, the moon. Abraham and Sarah. Jacob and Rachel. Isaac and Rebecca. It's all the Sun and the moon. So as the moon makes quarter waxing, the Sun has also reached March the 21st in the sign of Aries, the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world. Because finally the Sun has passed out of the Red Sea, and Israel has come up out of the Red Sea. So then here the king is always enthroned. The Sun is enthroned up here in June the 21st on the solstice. And as Jesus climbs up to Jerusalem and he comes into Jerusalem on 2 donkeys, always 2 donkeys, the heroes. You'll find that if you read Apuleius's Golden Ass and all these heroes that humbly come into Jerusalem, come into their city of renown, they're always coming in on 2 donkeys, because there are 2 donkeys. There's 2 stars here in Gemini. And when they see the Sun passing those two stars called Asinellus Borealis and Asinellus Australis, that's the southern donkey and the northern donkey, they know that he has come in, the Sun has come in by procession into Jerusalem. And always the Sun then declines, and as he goes through the lion, he kills the lion just like Samson, and then he gets betrayed at the scales of Libra, the justice of the equinox. And then the longer days begin, and the fall happens, and the Sun falls down, is betrayed by Judas Iscariot. This Judas Iscariot, Scorpio, when it says that Judas Iscariot betrayed Jesus for 30 silver pieces, a silver piece of money in those days was worth $3.40. Do you think that anyone would betray someone for about, $60? Impossible. It's not talking about a literal story, it's the Sun, because silver is a euphemism for degrees. Scorpio, Judas Iscariot, betrays the Sun with 30 pieces of silver, 30 degrees of the sign of Scorpio. This is the betrayer. November, winter, no mercy. He bites the Sun, and so does Sagittarius. Sagittarius has the arrow, and the arrow is pointing to the 21st of December. Sagittarius' arrow is pointing to the 21st of December, the solstice, when the Sun dies. This is the arrow that pierces the hero in the heel. It's all there, it's all in the skies, man. All our mythology, everything in the Bible is here. All the stories of the Bible, all the fairy tales, they're all in here. Jack and the Beanstalk, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. It's all here. Every single nursery rhyme has to do with the Sun. And just remember that as the moon performs her cycle, and of course this correlates corresponds with the womb of the woman. Okay, the egg in the womb, in the ovaries, takes 14 days to mature, and at that point there, that's when fertilisation takes place. A son is born 270 days later, 9 months later, if it's fertilised. The same thing is happening with the sun. The sun starts here, it's quarter, it's full, quarter waning, and then it dies. Just like the moon. The moon dies at the new moon. You cannot see the moon for 2 days, the best part of 2 days. And that corresponds with the bleeding of the menstruation cycle. Men coming from moon. Okay? And the sun is doing the same thing. He's a hero. He climbs up as a little boy and he comes to march, the Lamb of God, and he conquers. And that's why they celebrate the Passover, the Jews, because the sun has passed over. It's passed over the equator. It's gone into the northern hemisphere, where all is good and all is rich and wonderful, and we get to live again because of the photosynthesis. The sun is blasting us with photons. And those photons are so important for our health. That is our vitality, the sun. Let me just show you a few more. Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast, for instance, we have the same idea. There are 3 sisters, one of whom is chosen as the bride of an enchanted monster who dwells in a beautiful palace. By the arts of her sister she is kept away from him, and he is at the point of death through his grief. Then she returns, and he revives, and becomes changed into a handsome prince, and they live happy ever after. One feature of these legends is that being closely united to each other, as closely, that is, as the sun and the dawn. It's always the dawn. The sun coming up out of the dawn is Prince Charming, and he's always saving and reuniting with the dawn, his lover, every day. And this is the origin of all our myths, man. There's not a myth, there's not one that does not come from that. And if it does, as explained in this book, if it does, it has to do with lightning or volcanoes or earthquakes or some similar phenomena in nature. But otherwise, it's always the sun. The sun is the hero. Orpheus and Eurydice, or the sun, Eurydice, the dawn, is bitten by a serpent, the night. She dies and descends into the lower regions. Orpheus follows her and obtains from the gods that his wife should follow him if he promised not to look back. Remember Lot's wife? She looked back. Orpheus promises, ascends from the dark world below. Eurydice is behind him as he rises, but the dawn by doubt or by love. But drawn by doubt or by love, he looks around. The first ray of the sun glances at the dawn, and the dawn fades away. Again, the hero comes up in the morning every day and smashes the darkness, and all the other stars go into hiding. Because the sun is the hero. He's the hero of our solar system. And that's why we need to understand how the solar system works. Because if we understand the cycle of the solar system, the daily day and night, and the yearly summer and winter, we will understand all things. Everything is interrelated. Everything. Okay, look, I've got so many other poems and things that I want to show you that are interpreted by means of this, but that should suffice. I just want to read one more thing out of this book, though, which is a lot of interest. The sun, ever victorious in open contest with his enemies, is nevertheless not invulnerable. At times he succumbs to treachery, is bound by the frost giants, or slain by the demons of darkness. Odysseus, stripped of his beggar's raiment and endowed with fresh youth and beauty by the dawn goddess Athene, engages in no doubtful conflict as he rises as he raises the bow which none but himself can bend. Nor is there less virtue in the spear of Achilles, in the swords of Perseus and Sigurd, in Roland's stout blade Durendal, or in the brand Excalibur, with which Sir Bedivere was so loath to part. All these are solar weapons, and so too are the arrows of Tel and Palnotoki, Egil and Hemming and William of Cludesley. Anyway, I wasn't intending to read all that, but I just want to show you Perseus, Odysseus, all these heroes. It's the sun. It's only the sun. Sleeping Beauty, the earth goddess, sinks into her long winter sleep when pricked by the point of the spindle. In her cosmic palace, all is locked in icy repose, naught thriving save the ivy which defies the cold, until the kiss of the golden-haired sun god reawakens life and activity. So the ancients were always waiting for this golden moment, this magic Passover day. And at 6 in the morning, every morning, not that the sun rises at 6 o'clock every morning. I mean, this morning I think it was up at earlier than that, was it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's rough. It's simplifying things. It's rough science in this respect, but we give it that value. But the equinox always happens on March the 21st. That's the magic day. That's the day when all the calendars begin. That's Nisan, when the Jews begin their sacred calendar. And the 21st of September on this side, that's when the Jews begin their secular calendar. All the calendars begin here. This is the start. Here is where right ascension begins. Do you know what right ascension is? Aries. First degrees of Aries. First degrees of Aries is right ascension. Right ascension and declination that's the celestial terms for longitude and latitude. Okay? When you look at the globe of the earth, you'll see these lines running down. That's longitude, and the ones going that way, latitude. Well, it's easy to work out. Let's say there's the earth there, and there's the equator. Okay? It's easy to work out latitude because you just take your latitude from the equator. So that would be like 40 middle mark there. That would be 45 degrees latitude. Well, that's declination, right? And right ascension is longitude. But how do you know where's the line for longitude? Because the Earth is spinning all the time. How do you know where to start? Where's the starting point? Does anyone know? Greenwich, England, Greenwich Mean Time. We always start the day at Greenwich. The Green Witch. Make a note of that. Greenwich. It used to be in Paris, and then before that it was in the Great Pyramid in Egypt. But today, longitude comes from Greenwich. Well, that's the same as right ascension. Right ascension starts at first degrees of Aries. Everything starts at Aries, man. The body of the man, Adam, and I'm going to show you this in a minute, is here. In astronomy, here is what they call the ascendant. So here is what they call the descendant. Ascendant, descendant. And this line here is the meridian. That's Adam. Now this is one source for that. This is a fellow called Zosimos. He was writing 1700 years ago. So then, the first man among us is named Thoth of the Egyptians. And among them, Adam. The name from the language of the angels. And not only that, but with respect to the body, the name they refer to him by is symbolic, composed of 4 elements from the whole sphere. For the letter A of his name, Adam, signifies the ascendant, the east. The ascendant, the east. That's the ascendant. That's the ascendant. The letter D of his name signifies descendant, the west, and earth, which sinks down because of its weight. And the letter M of his name signifies the meridian. That's Adam in the sky. Adam's head is here, throat, arms are the twins, Cancer is the chest, Leo is the heart, the lion heart. Virgo is the belly, Libra is the kidneys. The scales, the kidneys, the justice, the seat of justice. Scorpio is the generative organs, thighs, knees, the goat, Capricorn, the climber. Capricorn climbs. That's the shins, that's the feet, Pisces. That's Adam. Adam. The ascendant, the descendant, the meridian. Adam in the sky. Adam Kadmon of the Kabbalah. It's just science. It's not spooky. It's not from the devil. The devil's a fiction anyway. It's knowledge. This is knowledge that the world, this is what they don't want us to know. Because they want us to think that it's a literal story. Because with the literal story, they've got us by the short and curlies, guys. They've got us by the short and curlies. And we have been ignorant of this holy science that's in the Bible for a long, long time. Because we've been in the dark ages. It's nobody's fault. Well, it's the priestcraft. The priestcraft. You look around in Christianity and you'll find, you know, if you study Christianity, right? Let's say that's Christianity and this is heathens, everybody else. You've got Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Pentecostals, Baptists, Episcopalians, born-agains, Presbyterians, Methodists, right? And these guys are jumping up on their high horse, and they've got the truth, and everybody else is going to perish. They're going to perish because they haven't accepted Christ. But let me tell you something. I guarantee you that these people here will swear to you black and blue that these people are liars, and these ones will swear to you that they are liars. And the Baptists will tell you that the Mormons are liars, but the Mormons will tell you the Seventh-day Adventists are liars. You know what? They're all liars. They're all corporations doing business. They're multi-million-dollar businesses. I'm going to prove this and show you facts.
Multi-billion dollars.
Billions of dollars, man. There's a lot of money because the people who are running the show, the elite families who are running all this, they are the owners of these corporations. These churches are all incorporated, you know. The Jehovah's Witnesses go under the Watchtower and Tract Society Incorporated. It's incorporated. But they'll tell you, oh yeah, but you have to be incorporated, otherwise you can't operate because the government won't let you operate. Well, that's a lie. That's due to ignorance and stupidity. Corporations do business. They have shareholders and they do business. And believe you me, the shareholders of these, they're not actually Christians. The elite families who own these businesses, these corporations who come to you like wolves in sheep's covering, because that's what they are. All of these people, they're the ones that say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not do marvellous works in your names and expel demons and prophesy in your name? And Jesus himself said, I will say to you in that day, go away from me, you workers of lawlessness. These people are workers of lawlessness and they're up to mischief for no good. And their biggest lie is the historical Jesus lie. It's a lie. And I'm going to produce so many references from all thousands and hundreds of great scholars that will prove it. Will prove this. This is the story. This is the whole story. This is every fairy tale. Every story comes from this. And so does the Bible story. Okay, guys, I'm going to wipe this off because I'm just going to do a big one, and we're going to really look into this to show how everything comes from this. That's the equator. Now, the Tropic of Cancer is there. The Tropic of Capricorn is there now. Okay. Here is the solstice. June the 21st, March the 21st, September the 21st, December the 21st. Now, in astrology, these are the symbols for the planets, okay? Have a look at the Earth symbol. Do you think that the ancients knew something? Have a close look at that. Yes, they did. They knew something because this is in astrology, this is the symbol for the Earth. March 21st, June 21st, September 21st, December 21st. Now, these are all the 30-degree increments of all the signs. This is the green lush part, the photosynthesis. Here is the sun going below the equator. Okay, so let's put the names of these star signs. This is astronomy. These are the 12 signs that the sun travels through every year. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Now, so what we have here is every year the sun takes off from this point in the Gospels, and that happens on the 25th of December. Remember I showed you before that on the 1st of January we are at perihelion, and this is where Sirius is on the other side, directly opposite. Okay? Now, as the sun climbs up, the sun gets baptized in the sign of Aquarius, January. That's January. January is Janus, or John the baptizer. Because remember, the sun has to climb up and be enthroned, and then be betrayed and die again. And the sun gives his life in behalf of mankind. That's what it talks about. Jesus gives his life in behalf of mankind, because he does. He gets enthroned in the celestial kingdom, the city of David, because this is Mount Zion. And remember, King David made his house on top of Mount Zion. This is the Temple of Solomon. This is the tabernacle. And you think I'm going a little bit far with that? I'm going to read to you straight out of Josephus, guys. He's talking about the tabernacle. This is Antiquities of the Jews, Book 3, Chapter 8. And for the 12 stones, whether we understand them by the months, or whether we understand the like number of the signs of that circle, which the Greeks call the zodiac, we shall not be mistaken in their meaning. So he was talking about the 12 loaves of bread on the table in the tabernacle. He was talking about the 12 stones on the ephod of the high priest, the precious stones, and he said that it's the zodiac, the wheel that the Greeks called the zodiac. This is the 12 loaves of bread, this is the 12 stones, because each one of these has a stone. My sign, Aries, has amethyst. Right? Philo. Christians don't want you to read Philo. This is the guy whose historical footprint goes over Jesus' supposed alleged historical footprint. This guy mentions nothing about Jesus. Lived at the same time. This is the richest man in the world. He was a Jew in Alexandria. He was a scholar. He wrote 30 books. These are all his books. Okay? If we go to the life of Moses, Philo Judaeus, right, says this, tabernacle. This is Antiquities of the Jews, Book 3, Chapter 8. And for the 12 stones, whether we understand them by the months, or whether we understand the like number of the signs of that circle, which the Greeks call the zodiac, we shall not be mistaken in their meaning. So he was talking about the 12 loaves of bread on the table in the tabernacle. He was talking about the 12 stones on the ephod of the high priest, the precious stones, and he said that it's the zodiac, the wheel that the Greeks called the zodiac. This is the 12 loaves of bread, this is the 12 stones, because each one of these has a stone. My sign, Aries, has amethyst. Right? Philo. Christians don't want you to read Philo. This is the guy whose historical footprint goes over Jesus' supposed alleged historical footprint. This guy mentions nothing about Jesus. Lived at the same time. This is the richest man in the world. He was a Jew in Alexandria. He was a scholar. He wrote 30 books. These are all his books. Okay? If we go to the life of Moses, Philo Judaeus, right, says this, then the 12 stones on the breast, which are not like one another in colour, and which are divided into 4 rows of 3 stones in each. What else can they be emblems of, except of the circle of the zodiac? For that also is divided into 4 parts, each consisting of 3 animals, by which division it makes up the seasons of the year, spring, summer, autumn and winter, distinguishing the 4 changes, the 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes, each of which has its limit of 3 signs of this zodiac, by the revolutions of the sun, according to that unchangeable and most lasting and really divine ratio which exists in numbers. So that's Philo, and that's a book called On the Life of Moses, Book 2. So clearly he's saying that what was in the temple of God, he's talking about God's, King Solomon's temple, is the zodiac. Now, Philo actually wrote quite a few books, and they were all about the allegory that's in the Bible, this story. He wrote Allegorical Interpretation Book 1, Allegorical Interpretation Book 2, Allegorical Interpretation Book 3, and many of the Christian fathers who had their books burned wrote about this allegory. But because of the ignorance of the priestcraft, and because of the ignorance of being in the Iron Age, we've fallen into believing that this was pure history. Bible myths and parallels in other religions. Here, Thomas W. Doane says, "We shall never have an ancient history worthy of the perusal of men of common sense, till we cease treating poems as history, and send back such personages as Hercules, Theseus, Bacchus, etc., to the heavens, whence their history is taken, and whence they never descended to the earth." The heroes, whether it's Jesus Christ or Bacchus or whoever it was, never did come to the earth. They are celestial. It's all celestial. Now, Aries is cardinal. Taurus is fixed. Gemini is mutable. Cardinal, fixed, mutable. Cardinal, fixed, mutable. Cardinal, fixed, mutable. Take note of the fixed signs. This is a bull. This is a lion. This is an eagle. Or a sphinx. Or a hawk. But it's a bird. It's a scorpion. It's an eagle. Or a serpent. Okay? And this is a man. Aquarius is a man. Now, how many of you have had in the Bible described, cherubim described? God has the face of a man, face of an eagle, face of a lion, and the face of a bull. It's the fixed signs of the zodiac, because the fixed signs are very, very special. These have 4 stars, and later on we're going to see what the 4 stars mean. Aldebaran is the star here, the star of the show of Taurus, the eye of the bull. Regulus in the sign of Leo. Leo is the lion of the tribe of Judah. Regulus, which corresponds to the heart chakra, is in the Arabic language is called the Messiah. Scorpio has the star Antares. Antares means opposite Aries. It's not actually opposite Aries, it's opposite Taurus. But the star is called Antares. Remember that big red star I told you about? The red one, the red dragon? 2 red stars, 1 red star. The 4th red star is in Virgo. It's called Arcturus in Bootes. Bootes is here. It's a constellation that is attached to Virgo. There's a red star. Red star, 2 red stars, red star. Keep that in mind. So, you see the man, the bull, the lion, and the eagle. That's the cherubim in the Bible. Okay? Now, I'm going to describe someone with 12 names. See if you can identify who that is. The fisherman of men. The Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world. That's the Lamb. The rock. This, remember, Osiris is in here. Osiris. Or Orion is in Taurus. Osiris is the rock. How do I know? Just grab your reference Bible. This is the Jehovah's Witness reference Bible. It's one I had at home. Go to Deuteronomy 32, verse 4, and it says, "The rock, perfect in his activity." This is the rock, Osiris. And there's the name of Osiris in the Hebrew language. In the footnote, it says, "The rock, perfect is his activity, for all his ways are justice, a God of faithfulness, with whom there is no injustice. Righteous and upright is he." In the reference it says, Hatsua. Hatsua is the Hebrew for Osiris. Osiris, the rock. He is a twin. Jesus had brothers. He was a twin. He was a In here we have unicorn. We have 3 animals here, we have 3 animals here in Scorpio. Here we also have the unicorn. The unicorn is opposite Capricorn. The 2 corns are the horns of salvation of God. The unicorn's up here and the Capricorn is down here. They're both corns because the cornucopia means abundance. This is the house, this is the gateway to the descending cycle, and this is the gateway, the corn, to the ascending cycle. Evolution, involution. That's how the zodiac works. That's how astrology works. Here, there's another animal here. It's the scarab or the beetle. You've got 3 animals. The crab, the unicorn, and the beetle. Check this out. Please do your homework. That Saint Augustus, Ambrose, and probably about 10 church fathers have been known to call Jesus my good scarabus. Because the scarabus back in Egypt was a little beetle that would roll a ball of dung, his own dung, he would roll it up a mountain and then let it fall again. Roll it up a mountain and then it falls again until it got bigger, you know, like the snowball effect. Okay? That's why they put the beetle up there, the scarabus. Jesus being called my good scarabus by all the church fathers. Kircher in the 1500s called him my good scarabus, my good beetle. The lion of the tribe of Judah. The bread of life. Virgo is the bread. Jesus is called the bread of life. He's also a virgin, born of a virgin. That's the virgin. The just one, the one that came to judge. This is the judgment day. The Jews called September the 21st Atonement Day. They call it Judgment Day. This is the Festival of Tabernacles for the Jews. This is Judgment Day. Jesus is the judge. Scorpion, when Jesus says, be wise as serpents, but innocent as doves. That's the sign of Scorpio. Sagittarius, he's got the arrow. Aha. They're all conking out on me, these texts. Sagittarius has the arrow. He kills the sun. The sun gets it in the heel and dies because of Sagittarius. Jesus says, I came to this world to divide, to cause a division. Sagittarius is the dividing line. It sits on the dividing line. 21st of December is the last day of Sagittarius. He came to bring a division. The scapegoat of Israel. The Son of Man. The fisherman of men. The carpenter. What's a carpenter? Well, it's a euphemism for astrologer, for a learned man. It comes from the word nagar. Is that right? I think it's 1G. Nagar. Alright, well, nagar is serpent. The serpent, he's the carpenter. That's what it means. That's what it means. He's a nagar. He's a serpent lord. He's as wise as a serpent. And remember, Moses said, Jesus said that the Son of Man must be put on like a serpent on a cross, just like tied to a tree, just like Moses did with the copper serpent in the wilderness. That's Scorpio. So you see, all these signs correspond with the 12 disciples. These are the 12 judges of Israel. 12 judges of Israel and one prophetess. Who was the prophetess? Deborah. It's always the moon. Jacob had 12 sons and one daughter, Dinah. There's always 12 and one woman. It's the 12 disciples. It's the 12 followers of the Son. Okay. This is a very, very interesting point and it will help you to understand many, many things. The Sun rules Leo. The Moon rules Cancer. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Next in line is Venus. Next in line is Mars. Next in line is Jupiter. And here is Saturn.
Can you make Mars more clear? Because Mercury confuses the Mercury.
Mars. Mars, okay?
Yes.
Now, look at the Sun. He rules, remember, he rules the photosynthesis cycle. This is, remember, this is live, this is evil. This is all bad. Everything that happens, these signs are bad signs, these are good signs. That's why that's the Jewish menorah, the 7 candelabra, right? Now, see the Sun, in astrology, every sign has its ruling house, its detriment, house of detriment, house of exaltation, and its fall. Every sign. This is the ruling house of the Sun. This is the detrimental house of the Sun. This is the exaltation of the Sun, and this is the fall of the Sun. Have a look at this carefully, guys. Please understand this carefully. The Sun rules here on the top. His opposition is here. His detriment, the Sun's detriment is in Aquarius. The exaltation of the Sun is here in Aries, and the fall is here. Can you understand why? Well, of course, the Sun exalts here. The hero has conquered his enemies and he's gone over that line. He is exalted. The Sun exalts in Aries. When the Sun comes down here, the Sun has its fall. Now, let's study Saturn. Saturn, over here, that's Saturn. Saturn rules here. That's the ruling house of Saturn. Opposite in Leo is the detriment. Aries is the fall of Saturn, and Libra is the exaltation of Saturn. The exact opposite of the Sun. That's why Jesus is opposed to Saturn, or Satan. That's Jesus. J-E-S, pronounced as yes in Hebrew. And when we say yes, that's why Barack Obama says, yes, we can. And Altus says, yes, because yes is the sun. And when you do this, you nod your head when you say yes, because the sun rises and the sun falls. And it's affirmative. And that's why you say yes, because yes is the sun. And you want proof of that? Yeah, year. The sun is what makes the year, because the year is the yes, the yeah, the yes, the yes. It's all in our language, it's still there. And English is one of the best languages for this astrotheology. I can do this in Italian, I can do this in Spanish, I can do it in French, because I speak those languages and I can do the same thing. I can find connections, everything is interrelated, and I'll show you that. But in English, we are lucky, because it's so close to Hebrew and Egyptian. It's still there. All of this stuff. The year is the yeah, which is the yes, which is Jesus, which is the sun, which causes the year. All right. How about this? So remember that Jesus is the sun, and his opposer is Saturn. Saturn rules Aquarius. That's Saturn's fall. That's Saturn's exaltation. That's Saturn's detriment. It's exactly the opposite. That's how we know that this story is true. This science is absolutely rock solid. They knew their stuff thousands of years ago, guys. In Egypt, get this. This was Horus. Horus, the sun, at 6 o'clock in the morning, when he rises and climbs the mountain, in fact, let me start this again. Here the sun is Horus. Here the sun is Ra, or Re. Here the sun is Set. Horus and Set are always warring against each other. Or Atum. Here he is Osiris. That's the four names of the sun. Okay? Here we have the words horoscope, because the sun, Horus, comes up in that belt, and that's the scope, Horus's scope, Horus's belt. The sun comes up always in that belt of the horoscope. That's why we call it the horoscope. It's the sun scope. It's the sun. We also get hour. What hour is it? Because we want to know where Horus is, the sun. Because hour comes from Horus. It also comes from...
Horizon?
Good. Horizon.
Horus is risen.
Yes. Exactly. And then when he does rise, and Jesus is 12, because he's born here, and at 12 he becomes... What's the Italian word for king?
Re.
Re. That's Ra, because that's where the sun's rays are the most glorious, because the sun radiates, and he is royal.
Or reigns.
Yes, he reigns. That's where the sun reigns. But then he's betrayed. Every year the sun gives his life for us. How do we spell reign?
R-E-I-G-N.
Reigns. Regal. Here we have Set, which is Satan, because Horus or Jesus is always in opposition to Satan. Satan, but that's where the sun sets. And that's where the autumn happens. This is autumn. This is the fall, spring, summer, winter. So Atum is here. That's the name of the sun, Atum. And why is it called Atum? Because Atum is also Aten, Akhenaten. Remember, Akhenaten worshipped the Aten, the disk of the sun, the 18th dynasty pharaoh, the famous one, the one that they say was Moses. It's also an atom, because our sun is an atom. It's a macrocosmic atom. Our atoms, the 100 million atoms that we have in our body, which correspond to the 100 million, or 100 billion rather, stars in our galaxy. We have 100 billion atoms, and our galaxy has 100 billion stars. No one tweaks. That it's the same thing. This is a universe. Every time we walk down to the store, we're carrying all these solar systems with us. Because the sun, the atom, is an atom. It's atum. It's Amun. Solomon. 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 Solomon is the sun. The sun is Sol, solar. And Amun is the atom. What about Adam? Remember I told you this is the ascendant, this is the descendant, this is the meridian, and Zosimos of the 3rd century said that is Adam, because Adam is also Adonai. Adonai, the Jews call the Lord. How many times in the Bible do the Jews call the Lord, the Son, Adonai? Because it comes from Aten. Adam. Atom. Amun. That's why we say, in Jesus' name, Amen. Because we're identifying who Jesus is. It's Amen. It's the Amun. It's an Egyptian religion. This is a book you need to read, guys. Christianity and Ancient Egyptian Religion. This is one of the books that you need to read. In here, Ahmed Osman shows how Jesus, Esas in Arabic, was around a lot longer than the supposed historical Jesus. Because the Essenes, from which comes the word Esas for Jesus in Arabic, were around for hundreds of years before So he identifies where Essos and the Essenes comes from. Osiris. Osiris is Lazarus. Remember, Jesus says, Lazarus, come on out of the tomb, because he was dead for 3 days. Why is the sun dead for 3 days? Because if you look on the horizon, let me make some space here, you'll understand what I'm doing. If you look on the horizon, every year you see the sun, it travels 47 degrees from the solstice to the solstice, and there's the equinox. So the sun every year goes summer, autumn, winter, spring. Summer, autumn, winter, spring. And you can see this, you can watch it, alright? Now, so that means the sun sets over here in summer, and over in winter it sets over here. So it travels. If you're watching the sun rising or setting on the ocean, you will see the sun walking on water. That's Jesus walking on water. That's why it says that he's walking on water. It's not literal. You know, Humpty Dumpty's not real. Remember all those Christians in there that hate each other and tell you that this one's wrong and they're false and these ones are liars and murderers? They all are. Christianity's been murdering for thousands of years, and it's been murdering this knowledge, this beautiful science. This science is the origin of Christianity. And unless we go back to this, we're lost. We're doomed. This is the science. And it's astrology. It's a pure science. It's always been known to be a pure science. It's just that we have had a lot of resistance to that.
You're saying how it dies for 3 days.
Good, okay. Sorry. Alright then. So the sun, when the sun is watched walking on water and it goes to the solstice on June the 21st, it stops. You can see it stopping. It also stops here for 3 days. It's amazing. At the equinoxes, it does stop. It stands still. There's no movement. It moves about 1 degree every 8 days. So it's travelling pretty fast, man. It's hiking along here. It's walking on water. Jesus. J-E-S. The sun. Right? And then it stops here, here, and here, and here. And they are the 4 crucifixions. And that's where Lazarus, Osiris, remember, Horus, Ra, the radiating one, and Re, and the French say Roi, and we get the word Roy. We get a lot of names from these. You know, everything is interrelated. It's all interrelated. And the sun stops here, here, here. These are the four crucifixions. And as one of the church fathers said, Irenaeus, he said, there has to be 4 gospels, because there's 4 seasons. There's 4 cardinal points. Remember, these are the cardinal points. You had Aries was cardinal, Cancer is cardinal, Libra, and Capricorn. In the middle you have the fixed signs. And of course all those signs had their elements. Because, remember, everything starts here at Aries, the photon, cardinal fire. So it goes through its stage of temperature, and then it hits Taurus, which is solidity. Then the photon hits Gemini, which is cohesion, air, oxygen, octahedron, particle. It's all science. As the sun goes through, and as we go around the sun, our Earth is flying. Right now we're doing about 36 miles a second. We can't perceive it. We're like pretty still, aren't we? But that's how fast. Every second we're doing about 36 miles. And all the planets are doing the same thing. They're flying through space. And they're causing these geometric forms. Now, okay. Corporate logos. Let me start with my favourite. I think I might start with the most blatant one of all. What's that?
Yeah.
It's the sun. In Hebrew, let's see if I've done my homework. In Hebrew, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Shin. That's what it looks like. Dun, dun. And it goes like this. Please forgive me, but it connects up there. There it is anyway. Shin. Shin. When you put that in between Yod Yod, He, Va, He, Yod, He, Va, He is the Tetragrammaton, the name for Jehovah. When you put that in the middle of it, which is the Sh for shell, you make the word for Jesus, Yeshua. Yeshua and Jehovah are the same word, man. You just put that in there, and you change Jehovah, Yod He Va He, you change it into Yeshua, because that's the fire. You put the fire in the name, right? So shell. Remember who El is? Helios, Elohim. Shell. That's the sun, and there are 8 of these, because the number for the sun is 8 and 1. If you do your numerology, just follow the 7 days of the week. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday and Saturday. The sun gets 1, the moon gets 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Back to the sun is 8. That's why they have 8. Because the people who own this, why would they want to choose some loser sign? They're all going to have the sun. McDonald's. What's that? Sign of Aries. What's that?
Sun.
Remember that? The symbols for all the planets. There's the sun. That's what Target is. It's all the sun. Zeta Tau Alpha. See that? The candelabra of the Jews. Fraternity, it's the sun. Harley Davidson, that's the wings of the sun. That's the sun. That brand of car is the sun. Aston Martin, the sun. Chrysler, the sun. Bentley, Morgan, Mini. There's the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall in New Jersey, or New York.
Assembly Hall.
The Assembly Hall. There's the sun.
It's also on the book you showed before.
It is too. Holden motor car. There's the wings pointing upwards. It's the sun. There's Leo with the sun. Holden, GM Motors, the sun. Metro Golden Mayer, the sun. Leo. The CIA, the sun. Lucent Technologies. What's more lucent than the sun? Time Warner Cable, the eye of the sun, the eye of Horus. Sun Records. Remember who Sun Records was? Elvis Presley's label? Of course. Look at that. What's that? The cock. The cock is the sun. Jesus was a cock, a rooster. He was also a rooster. He's all the animals. He's a fisherman of men, he's a lamb. He's a lion of the tribe of Judah. Who's that? Elvis Presley. What's he standing on? The sun. Of course they're going to put the king of rock, the king, on top of the sun. Black Sun Records. The black sun is Osiris. Saturn over here in Aquarius. Saturn, that's the black sun. Saturn is black. The colour for Saturn is black. Right? The colour for the sun is gold. That's why you have money. Money is silver. Money is gold. And money is bronze. Bronze is Mercury, because bronze is from tin and copper. Mercury is a hermaphrodite. Tin is Jupiter. Copper is Venus. Put them together, you get Mercury. Or you get a hermaphrodite. You got a male and a female. You put together, make bronze or brass. That's the moon. She's silver. And that's the sun, gold. And that's why we call this money, because we have more silver than we have gold. Money comes from the moon. We've got money in our pockets. Here's some coins from Pompeii. Nothing's changed, man, in 2,000 years. These coins are 2,000 years old. There we have it. That's a coin from Pompeii. Gold. Silver, the moon. Bronze. Right? It doesn't change. And Mercury, if you're wondering, oh, well, why Mercury? I mean, I understand why you have gold and silver for the sun in Leo and the moon, and then Mercury's over here in Gemini. Why Mercury? Because Mercury is merchant. And they always have the winged staff of Caduceus in banks. Have you ever seen that in banks? Because it's merchant. It's Mercury. Money. He is the god of merchandise. Mercury. And that's why that's the sign of the Caduceus, the dollar sign. MasterCard. 2 suns. And in the middle, a Vesica Pisces. I'll explain that in a minute. BP. All these petals, that's the sun. There are 72 of them. What's so interesting about 72? Because as you have 360 degrees around that circle, if you draw a pentagram here, pentagram in that circle, there's 72 degrees from there to there, and from there to there, and from there to there. Because 5 lots of 72 make 360 degrees. There are 72, the duration of the life of the ovule is 72 hours. The volume of Saturn is 72 times that of the Earth. In degrees Fahrenheit, 72 degrees is considered to be room temperature. Our lifespan is 72 degrees, 72 years.
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, yeah. In degrees Fahrenheit, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, is room temperature. Right? Our average lifespan is 72. Our average heartbeat is 72. 7.2 centimetres from the width of the human face. 72 is everywhere. Because 72, remember I said to you that in precession, every 72 years, the stars go back 1 degree. So we're locked into 72. You're going to see 72 everywhere. Why did Jesus in Luke chapter 12 or Luke chapter 10 verse 1 send 72 disciples? Because he's got 12 disciples, 12 major signs, but he's also got 72. Because these are numbers. Moses had 72 wise men. He had 70 wise elders that were spirit anointed, including himself and Aaron. That makes 72. 72 elders, 72 old men of the synagogue. The 72 races resulting from Noah. The 72 parentellons or extrazodiacal constellations. There are 72 other constellations other than the 12. 72 is everywhere, man. It's part of astrology. What about the 12 gates in Jerusalem? There were 12 gates, weren't there? You know, Jerusalem was a city built on Mount Moriah and Mount Zion. There were 12 gates. Well, I'm just quoting now from a book which I want to show you. And if you want to learn about this subject, try and get this book by Cesar. I'll show you what she says on page 256. The 12 gates and the zodiac signs they represent. There was a sheep gate, I think we're going to start this again. The sheep gate, the dung gate, because that's what cattle do, dung. The valley gate, Gemini, twins, because you need two mountains to make twins to make a valley. This is all very, very well done, man, but it's here. There's no mistaking. Jerusalem had 12 gates, and the 12 gates are these are the 12 gates of Jerusalem. The prison gate, Cancer the crab. Crabs are grabbers, a word derived from the same root. Whatever is seized is imprisoned. They are the imprisoners. That's the prison gate. The crab grabs and imprisons. The old gate, that's the lion gate. Leo is the paternal sign, signifying the great father of the zodiac. The old gate. The Ephraim gate, Virgo the virgin. Ephraim means fruitful. This is the sign of the fruit, the harvest. The corner gate, or middle gate. The corner is the mason's square for measuring, which is exactly the function of the scales. The water gate, Scorpio. The horse gate, Sagittarius. The fountain gate, the Mifkad gate, Capricorn the goat. Mifkad in Hebrew means muster, census, parade, roll call. All these signify grouping together, which is the natural behaviour of goats. They come in flocks. Recall the connection of Gad, goat, with troop, and note Gad in Mifkad. This is the Mifkad goat sign. The fountain gate, Aquarius, and the fish gate. Needs no explanation. Okay, it's all there. There's no mistaking it. Now, let me see where I'm up to, because I'm trying to stick to the schedule here, and I believe I've gone way, way, way off. Okay. When you... Sorry, I need to finish this. There are 72 petals in here because of the 72 names of God. Did you know that there were 72 names of God? Let me show you. When you draw a triangle and you put the top Yod, Yod is worth 10, numerical in the Hebrew language. Yod is worth 10. Then you put Yod and He. He is worth 5, so you've got the value of 10 here, you've got 15 there, because that's 10 and that's 5. Then you've got Yod, He, Va. Va is worth 6, so that's 21. And then you've got Yod, He, Va, He, Jehovah, and that gives you 31, and you add that up at 72. That's what they're doing with you, man. They're playing with you. They are all the sun. Everything is the sun. All corporate logos. The eye of the sun, CBS News. The eye, there it is. Life is good, the sun, winking at you. The newspaper, the sun. Here's the Baptist Church. Living Hope, Baptist Church. Do you think they know something that they're not telling you? Oh, that's the sun because it's a bright sunshiny day today, so we'll just put a picture of the sun there. No, they worship the sun. It's the sun. Jesus is the sun. There it is. Team Helios. Helios is the sun. There's the sun. Vodafone. 6, 6, 6 upside down. They're cheeky bastards. But these people, the criminals that own these corporations, every single one of these, you'll find it's the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Morgans and all these pirate families from the days of the Hudson Bay Company and the East India Company and the people who used to sell opium to the Chinese and the Christian marauding capitalists. And I'm going to show you these quotes. Who have conquered the world with bloodshed, with the symbols of the sun. Because that's what they are. And look at that, Vodafone, that's the Ku Klux Klans, man. They stole that image from the Ku Klux Klan because that's who they are. They are the Ku. We don't do our homework. We've got our Vodafone card and I'm with Vodafone. They're criminals. They're all criminals, man. There it is there, the top of the pyramid. There's the Hyatt, the sun. What about that one? There's the sun and the disc over. The disc goes over, the Passover. This is, must be a Jewish company. Subaru, the stars. Isuzu, see the S's facing each other? There's a reason for that. I'm not going to go into it, but that's very. This is the sun. The two S's that go down. That go down up the spine. The Kundalini and the Kundabhatha. That's the two S's facing each other. 7 Up. It's the sun. Mobile, the sun with Pegasus. Usually the O is red. Cancer, the 69 of Cancer. 69 is the symbol for Cancer. There's the heraldry. Remember I showed where it said I was looking for the heraldry of the British Empire? Leo and unicorn. Cancer, the moon. She's always white. The Virgin, the bride. That's the Son, Jesus and his bride. Philip Morris, the sun. What's that? You know the symbol for Aquarius? That's Aquarius. That's Mars. Remember the symbol for Mars? On the toilet doors? That's the vulva, the feminine part, and that's the masculine part, having sex. It's the sun, Mars. There's Mars is the most elliptical orbit. Venus is a softer orbit. So there's Mars and Venus, the male, the phallic, going into the feminine, and that's the sun. Mars having sex with Venus. You can learn all this. Stuff like this from guys like Jordan Maxwell, Michael Tessarian. And I urge you guys, to have a look at some of these videos. Michael Tessarian, Origins and Oracles. You'll learn about that. Symbols. Astrotheology and symbols. He's got a disc on symbols and the subversive use of symbols. This is subversion. Zeitgeist. Check this out. There's a doof. Every time you pull up Zeitgeist, you'll see this other video next to it, which is called Debunking Zeitgeist. I can't believe it. Because I know all this, when I saw that I nearly vomited. This guy will go down in history as the most stupid individual who ever lived, and a person who is leading the blind. He's the blind leading the blind, this guy who's debunking Zeitgeist. This film was made, this is so accurate. It was made and followed and produced by mostly Jordan Maxwell, Peter Joseph and Acharya S. Acharya S is a scholar who's done a lot of work in exposing the Christ myth, the myth of the story of the historical Jesus. It's a myth. Fiat, the sun. Mazda, that's Aries, because Mazda is the Persian word for March, just as Nisan is. Nisan is March, and when the sun passes over Nisan, that's where you get Nisan. There's the sun passing over the equator. Same word. This one has Aries because Aries is the sign. Remember McDonald's? Red and yellow. That's Aries. The sun in Aries. Nike. What's that? Saturn. There it is. So it's one of the 7. There's the hex on Saturn again. There's Saturn. Black. Dark. Representing lead. Heaviness. He rules here and here. He's black, like Osiris is black. Why do you see Jesus is black sometimes, and sometimes he's white? He's a Galilean, he's a Judean, he's a Nazarite. What is he? Well, a Galilean. Galilean is a Gaul. The Gauls are like you guys, white. Galilean, Judeans, dark. Judeans originally were black. That's black. Osiris was black. This is Osiris. Saturn. Osiris. The planets. It's all the planets and the stars. Everything is the planets, but mostly the sun. And the stars. There's Intel. Why do you think they do funny things with the E? Pentium means 5. E, see that E there for ether? This is 1, this is 2, 3, 4, this is 5. That's why a lot of people have Pentiums and they do these funny things with the E. Intel. Dell. Ether. 5. Enron, one of the biggest Illuminati corporations, wreaking havoc and destruction on the world. E-Force, Esprit, E-Trade, 5 with the sun, 5, ether. Because if it's not the sun, if you're not going to have the sun as your corporate logo, or a star, or a moon, or a unicorn, or something, or Saturn like Nike, you've got to have an E, you've got to have ether. Because ether, this is the key. But ether, E, or 5, Pentium, L, 5, there's L, the sun. There's the pentagram. Remember I showed you 72 degrees? That's Venus, the pentagram. Walmart, the pentagram. 5, the ether. Chrysler, that's the sun. I'll show you that in a minute. The Aboriginal flag, the Japanese flag, it's the sun. Australian, it's the sun. What about the 4 stars? Remember I told you there were 4 stars? Aldebaran, the red one. Antares, the red one. Regalis. And Fomalhaut. Those 4 stars, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. Bless this couch that I lie on. That's the 4 stars. Why do they have 4 stars? 4 stars. 4 stars. 4 stars. Everywhere. It's the 4 stars.
Are they the 4 red ones?
No.
Oh.
These are red. There's another red one here. That's Aldebaran, the eye of the bull, and Betelgeuse in Orion. That's the 2 red ones. And there's another one here called Arcturus in Virgo. There's an orange one here, Pollux and Castor. Pollux and Castor are the twins. Castor's green, Pollux is orange. It's amazing when you see the twins. And the twins are always up here. That's Apollo. Apollo, the Apostle Paul. Apollo, Pollux and Castor. Castor is they're always up there looking down. That's why they've named Manchester, Lancaster, Londoncaster, Doncaster. Castor is the sun, is the star. So when you go around England 3,000 years ago and you say, oh, I want to build a city here. Oh, there's Castor. Oh, let's call it Doncaster. That's how it works. That's how Rome was named. That's how Paris was named. What's Paris? Para. For Isis. When you go to Paris, you go to the heart of Paris, there's this little island and there's this big cathedral on the on the island. What's it called? Isis. It's called Notre Dame. Notre Dame means our woman, our lady, our virgin of the skies. So you go to Paris and it's for Paris. But when you go to London, El on Don. El is the sun. On is the sun. Remember Joseph and Potiphar in the Bible? Joseph went to On. On is in Egypt. It means the sun. And Don means the Lord, the being, the one. El London is to the sun. Rome is Ra, the sun. Romulus and Remus. What about the car? Remember the car, the Forester? You seen these beautiful new cars getting around? It's 4 stars. It's all the sun. Everything is the sun. There's Mobil. Exxon. The red and the blue, that's the Rockefeller family. They always have red and blue in their logos, and they're telling you, and they're laughing at you. They're saying, you buy our petrol, man. Fossil fuels and hydrocarbon technology, combustion engine, was obsolete 50 years ago. Remember Steven Seagal in that movie where he gave that speech, that beautiful speech to wake people. He's a good man, Steven Seagal, and he said it's obsolete. We don't need to pay for our fuel, but Shell the fire, and L the sun. And they're telling you in their logos, they tell you plain and clear, man. There's no escaping it. That's why they don't want you. It's all the language of symbols. they've forgotten, they've misunderstood the symbols. This is the symbols. I'm teaching you the symbols. What's a symbol? An image, an idol, an icon. That's why the religion of Moses forbids idols, because it's a superior language. You get to wake up here, because an image, what's an image? They hate images, the Christians, because you can imagine. They don't want you to imagine, and they don't want magic, image, magic. They don't want you to be magic. They want you to be a dipshit. And that's why they tell you when they go to church, you must be like sheep, brothers. And you think it's because sheep are humble and they follow the good shepherd, and Jesus is always carrying the sheep on his back. Well, Hermes was doing that thousands of years before Jesus. All the heroes, Hercules, they all carried the sheep. They want you to be sheep because they want to fleece you and pull the wool over your eyes and lead you like a lamb to the slaughter. The priestcraft are abusive. They're more interested in pedophilia and sodomizing little boys and raping little girls and being moved on to other dioceses rather than being processed in the courts. And the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormons, and they're all the same. They all treat pedophilia and abuse of children as though it was a sin. God's going to punish you. You'll be disfellowshipped for raping that little boy, Brother Johnson, and we're going to send you over to that congregation where there's another 40 little boys for you to play with. But be sure you don't go and rape them too. They're rapists. Who's the Pope if he's not the king of pedophiles? He's harbouring the pedophiles. Christianity is criminal because of the way it deals with pedophilia. It's a sin, it's not a crime. They won't take their abusive priests to the policeman. Why? Because they're more interested in keeping God's name clear, you know. They're more interested in Jehovah's name. Oh, we shan't tell the media that we've got abuse and pedophilia in our congregation because we're going to spoil Jehovah's name. As if the God of the universe is worried about, please don't dog Brother Johnson into the police and the court system because I'm worried about my name. How insane are these people, man? They're sick. And this is the world that we've inherited, guys. And I'm pretty angry. I'm pretty angry about it. What about the expression when we say you're going to hell and Tommy? Well, December the 21st is St. Thomas Day. Thomas is the guy that the cross comes from, because the Son gets crucified here on the 21st of December. 21st of December is St. Thomas Day. Remember, he was the doubter. He doubted that Jesus was, unless I put my hands in those holes, I don't believe, I will never believe it. Yeah, well, because when the Son goes to hell, that's hell, it goes to Tommy. That's the expression. How many times in your life have you heard it? See, this explains everything. Explains all the expressions and idiomatic and idiosyncratic expressions that we have in our language. It explains all the myths, all the nursery rhymes, all the tales. There's only one thing, the sun. It's all the sun. Why do we shut our eyes when we pray? Because they used to, dressed in linen, the Egyptians used to wait every morning for Horus to come up, the sun. And you can't just, you can look at the sun as it's rising, but when it gets up beyond 7 or 8 degrees, it starts to get very, very bright. It's a different kind of light, and you have to shut your eyes. And they would shut their eyes and they would kiss the sun, like it says in the Bible, kiss the sun. The 24 elders in Revelation, it's the 24 hours. That's the 24 elders that sit around the throne of God. Elijah was taken up to heaven in a blazing chariot. It's the sun. Elijah was the sun. El is the sun. El and Jah is the sun. What about all the names that we have? All the people that are called John and Julian. Michael, Joshua, Joseph, Elijah, Elizabeth. What about Elizabeth? Well, do you remember Beth El? the house of the sun, the house of God, Bethel, and that's up here. Well, El, Isaac, Beth. So you put El, Beth, Elizabeth. It's all the sun. Constantine, I want someone, does anyone know what Constantine's cross looked like? Remember, Constantine founded Christianity in the year 325, and he did it because he saw a blazing cross in the sky, and the sign next to the cross said, in this sign, you shall conquer. Can someone please come up and show me the cross of Constantine? Can someone please write it? There are many crosses. Don't get this wrong, please.
Cross on the crown.
Come on, have a go.
It's not the cross on the crown, is it?
I thought it was the cross with a circle in the middle.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's this one, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, it's
What's
this.
the cross?
No, it's this one. That's the cross of Constantine.
With a sword in the middle.
Because, well, this is that in Greek is the letter R. Okay? It's the letter Ro.
Kiro.
Exactly.
Christos.
And this cross is Kiro. Have you heard of Cairo in Egypt?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me tell you a story. Have you ever been to the Vatican? You go to the Vatican and there's a beautiful colonnade at the Vatican, and it goes like this. You know, there's the pillars of the colonnade. Beautiful big pillars, right? And this is the square. There's a square at the Vatican. There's another colonnade around here. And these are the pillars of the colonnade, right? And there's a square at the Vatican. And at the end of the colonnade, there's here's the papal, here's the Vatican, here's the papal. The Pope stands here, and all the people are in here. There's 1 million people that come to the Vatican. That's the roof of the colonnade. And if you want to see a 10-minute video film on YouTube, it's called Christianity Revealed, and it will teach you this. You will see this, what I'm about to show you. Constantine, he saw this cross, and that's the British flag. The British flag, just remember the British flag, guys. And you know what it's called, the British flag? It's called the Union Jack. It's Jacob. It's Israel. The Union Jack. Jacob is the son. This is the Union Jack, because this is what happens. This is east, facing east. This is west. This is the Vatican. You'll see a statue here, you'll see a statue here, a statue here, and a statue here, and you'll see this massive big obelisk in the centre of St. Peter's Square. It is one of the biggest obelisks in the world. It was brought there by Julius Caesar. They had to get that obelisk from Egypt. How they got it there, no one knows. You know, it's told in boats and all these amazing tools that they had to put it on the boat so it wouldn't break. It's one stone. It's one of the biggest obelisks in the world. There are 13 Egyptian obelisks in Rome, Italy alone. There's only about 20 in the whole world. 13 of them are in Rome, because the religion of Cairo, the Christ, every cross comes from the sun. This comes from the sun. Let me show you. When the sun, this is east, this is south, and this is north. When the sun, remember the sun travels 47 degrees, right? And it goes from summer, autumn, winter, spring, summer, autumn, winter, spring. Okay. Well, watch the sun. When the sun comes up over here, this solstice, that obelisk casts a shadow on here. And at night, the shadow is opposite. Then it goes over to the east. 3 months later, the sun is there, and you see this beautiful road. The Vatican has got this beautiful road. It goes all the way, goes straight down, facing east. So the Pope, when he's talking to all these people, the king of pedophiles, and they love him, and yet he's hoarding all the wealth of the world. He's hoarding all the riches. It's all there. Okay, you need to read this book by Tony Bushby, The Papal Billions. It's not billions, it's trillions. They're criminals. They're banksters. That's what they are. Wolves in sheep's covering. At Easter, on March the 21st, when the sun is in the east, because Easter, you can't deny it, Christian is all based on the stars. The Eastern Star. It's all stars. It's all the sun. Why do we tell our children? The school teacher says now, be as good as gold, the sun, be a good young star, and if you do that, I will give you some golden stars. And so little Johnny runs home and says, Mummy, look, I've got some stars. I did well. I've got 4 gold stars and 3 silver stars. It's all the sun. It's all the stars. We call our children youngsters because we want them to be like the sun. We want them to be like Jesus, the Son, because it's through the Son that we go to the Father. When we lose our material molecules, when we lose the hex, and we get baptised in water, and we get baptised in spirit, because that's the word for spirit, and then fire, and Jesus, and we go back to where we came from, to the source, to the causal world, out of this world of effects, back to the world of causes. Anyway, the sun casts its shadow down here, doesn't it? Then it casts its shadow over there, and then over here, it casts its shadow over here, and then it casts its shadow over here. So you've got your 4 monuments, your 4 statues, and the sun, and what they do is this Kiro is Christo, who is Krishna, who is Kronos. Remember, Kronos is Saturn, and Jesus and Saturn are always at war because they both have the Kiro. Both of them want to be the lords. Saturn, he's on the outside of the solar system, and then there's Jupiter and Mars, but Saturn is the boss over there, and the Sun in the centre, he says, no, I'm the boss. They're always fighting. It's Jesus and Satan. Satan rules down at the bottom. Remember, Saturn rules down here, and the Sun rules up there in Leo. That's the story. That's all it is. So when you see this at the Vatican, you see the Kiro, or this without the... This can be I and X, Jesus Christus. That's what it can be. Alright guys, I've just got a few more things to do. I just want to show you that the religion, this nature religion has always been around. I'm going to show you some quotes where Eusebius and St. Augustine, the early church fathers, said loud and clearly that the Christian religion has always been. It's always been. I'm going to show you that in a minute. If you go to Egypt, you will go to a pyramid. I think it's Pepi's pyramid of the 5th or the 6th dynasty. And the pyramid texts come from that. This is the pyramid text, okay? The oldest writings that we know of. The oldest. Older than the Bible by far. Just want to read you the opening words. To say by Nut, the brilliant, the great, this is my son, my firstborn, the opener of the womb. This is my beloved with whom I've been satisfied. Remember when Jesus was baptized? Those words were ripped off from here. Because in Egypt, if you go to the temple of Amenhotep in Luxor, you know that beautiful temple in Luxor in Egypt? In the Holy of Holies, you will see these 4 panels. You will see Mercury, or the angel Gabriel, that's Mercury, announcing to the Virgin that she will have a son. And then you see the Virgin being born, or the Virgin being pregnant, and being given the Ankh, the Holy Spirit, and that God there is called Neph. The Holy Spirit. She was given the Holy Spirit. Remember, Mary was also given the Holy Spirit by Gabriel, and they said, you will have it. Well, Neph, have you ever seen the Greek word for spirit? What is it? Nephma. Nevma, spirit. It's been in Egypt for thousands of years. Then you see on the top of you see the woman, and she's given birth to the son, and you see the midwives, and then you see here 3 wise men coming to give gifts to the son. It's all about, as I told you before, it's Sirius up the top in Cancer, when the son is born on the 25th of December, down in 25th of December, and over here is Virgo, the Virgin. The son is born of a virgin in a manger, right? I've shown you all that. There's Horus. For all those fools out there who believe that other ignoramus, the ignoramus who actually thinks that he debunked the Zeitgeist, there is Horus with his 12 followers. They all have 12 followers. Krishna, Buddha, Osiris, Bacchus, Dionysus, Zabasius, Apollonius, Mithra. Mithra is clearly there with the 12 signs of the zodiac. It's all there. If you want to know how this corruption all happened, guys, I recommend this video. Try and get a hold of this video. It shows how Julius Caesar was behind the Julian dynasty. This book here shows how the Flavian dynasty, from Vespasian and Titus in the 1st century. This guy here, Roman Piso, he is of the Piso family, and he claims that Josephus was Arius Calpurnius Piso, the guy who made himself Jesus Christ in history. The Jesus Christ myth comes from this family. He's exposed it. All he wanted to do was go back, because the Piso family have held the power in Rome. This is the oligarch black nobility family that has ruled the earth now. All royalties go back to this family here. They all go back to this Jesus family. And they cannot work without their myth of Jesus Christ as a historical person, because they can get taxes. And you want proof of that? You think I'm talking out of my behind? Eusebius. Everybody knows who Eusebius is. Constantine's right-hand man, the #1 man when it comes to Christian history. Eusebius, in his church history, tells us that Justin, in his dialogue with Trypho, says there exists not a people, civilized or semi-civilized, who have not offered up prayers in the name of a crucified Saviour to the Father and Creator of all things. And what he's saying is that Christianity's been around forever. Here is Augustine. Saint Augustine lived about 50 or 60 years after Eusebius. He's also #1, #2. I don't know. Either Eusebius is #1 or Augustine is #1. If it's Augustine, then Eusebius is #2, or the other way around. But there's no greater than those two. And if they say this, you've got to believe it. That which is known as the Christian religion existed among the ancients and never did not exist. I'm telling you, it didn't. This crisscrossing, this Christ, the cross of the Son, Christ, Jesus in the heavens, the Son, has always been worshipped, nature. And never did not exist from the beginning of the human race until the time when Christ came in the flesh, which is a lie. At that time, the true religion which already existed began to be called Christianity. This is incredible, man. You will be blown away if you read some of these quotes. Irenaeus. Tertullian. You say we worship the Son. So do you. He was defending Christians. Tischendorf, the famous writer, the one who found the Codex Sinaiticus in Mount Sinai. Tischendorf. We must frankly admit that we have no source of information with respect to the life of Jesus other than ecclesiastic writings put together during the latter part of the 4th century. Pope Leo X, who was he was Medici. Who was he? He was a Medici. Remember Michelangelo that
Medici's, yeah.
the famous Pope, the fat Pope that he painted, the famous Michelangelo Pope. Well, this is what he said. What profit has not that fable of Christ brought us? The fable of Christ. He said, well, look at the profit that it's brought us. He would have been in the Vatican showing you with all the gold and said, what profit that the fable of Christ has brought us? I don't know where to begin. Here's the Emperor Julian, the nephew of Constantine the Great. Julian, he wrote he wrote the beautiful orations to the sun. Let me just read a little bit to you, to show you what he wrote. It's a beautiful man. The sun's resplendent deity I sing. He tried to save the world from Christianity. He brought them back to true religion, but they killed him. He was killed by Christians. But he's the nephew of Constantine the Great, the beauteous offspring of mighty Jove, who through the vivifying solar fount with his fabricative mind concealed, a triad formed of splendid solar gods, from whence the world's all various forms emerged. What did we learn about the geometry of the solar system? That's where everything emerges from the sun, from the photons. As the photons pour out of the sun, all material forms are manifested. From mystic darkness into beauteous light, perfect and full of intellectual goods. Hail, hail, super mundane king of divine light, the fairest image of the unknown good. The fairest image of the unknown good. And you know when these Christians tell you that the stupid barbarians didn't know that the sun was the centre of the solar system? Wrong. Julian, the Emperor Julian, wrote this. As for the planets, it is manifest that dancing, as it were, round the sun, their motions are measured by a certain symphony of figures with respect to the god. This is Julian, man. This is thousands of years ago. This is in the year 363 that he wrote that. I'll read it again. For as to the planets, it is manifest that dancing, as it were, round the sun.
That's interesting, because a lot of people put a lot of store in the Bible as for its validity, simply because it says that the earth hangs upon nothing. And so because of that, and the fact that that's accurate, they think it's got to be inspired.
Yeah, well, Marcus Manilius, the astronomer to Caesar Augustus, I won't read it, I won't quote it from here, I'll probably put it on the DVD in the captions, but he clearly says that the earth is suspended upon nothing and rotating around the sun. And he also says the moon, and he says when you look at the moon and you see the shadow on the moon, this is also what Ferdinand Magellan, the first man to circumnavigate the earth, that's what he says to the Pope, because they wanted to pull him up at the Inquisition. They wanted to kill him like they did to Giordano Bruno. They wanted to kill him for suggesting that the earth was round. But he said, when you look at the moon, because the moon is a sphere, isn't it? But when you see the moon like that, the crescent of the moon, he said, Ferdinand Magellan said, hey man, I trust nature, because what is the shadow that causes the crest of the moon? And they had to answer him, well, it's the earth. And he said, well, what shape is the earth? It's round. And he says, Marcus Manilius said that. Here's Thomas Paine. Does anyone know who Thomas Paine was? Thomas Paine was one of the founding fathers of America. The Christian religion is a parody on the worship of the sun, in which they put a man whom they called Christ in the place of the sun and pay him the same adoration which was originally paid to the sun. Man, I don't know, look, there's hundreds and hundreds. I'm so disappointed that I don't have time, but I have so many quotes from very, very great scholars. Here's Harmonius Saccus. And he taught that Christianity and paganism, when rightly understood, differ in no essential points, but had a common origin and were really one and the same religion. I don't have time, but I've got a lot of... There's thousands and thousands of quotes of scholars that have tried to reveal this. Many were killed. Many have been killed. I'm going to finish up now, guys. But do you think Leonardo da Vinci knew what he was doing when he put Jesus, the sun, in between the 12 signs of the zodiac? Notice how the apostles are in threes. That's spring, that's summer, that's autumn, and that's winter.
No, it's isn't it? In threes.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest pictures, the Last Supper. They knew what they were doing. It's all the sun. Everything is the sun. Now, just a real quick one, because these things are very important. What's the time?
11:15 or something.
Oh, you're kidding. Okay, this is the last one then. Abram is Brahma of the Hindus. Brahma's wife was Saraswati, Abraham and Sarah. Abram, at 90 years of age, gets a name change to Abraham, because Abraham is the sun above the equator and Abram is the sun below the equator. Jacob and Esau. Jacob is the sun and above, and Esau, Jacob is the sun below the equator. He gets a name change to Israel because he struggles with an angel. This is where the struggle happens. This is always the struggle. This is the struggle here, and then this is the conquering. So Jacob gets his name changed to Israel. This is Israel. Isis, Ra, remember Ra, and El, the sun. Jesus, the son, gets crucified between two thieves. This is the thieves, the equinoxes. This thief steals time from this thief, and Jesus gets crucified down here, because remember St. Thomas's day, this is Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me? Remember the cycle of the moon? Full moon, waning, bleeding. The sun, conquering, being enthroned as the king, and then falling down, being betrayed. Judas Iscariot in the Garden of Gethsemane. Sagittarius is the olive press, the Mount of Olives. It's called the olive press, the Mountain of Olives. Scorpio, the backbiter who betrays the sun with a kiss for 30 degrees, for 30 pieces of silver, which is about $60 worth. It's the moon. The silver is the moon. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he betrays Jesus and he gets crucified between two thieves. This one's the good, this one's the bad thief. This one's the bad thief, and this one is the good thief. Right? This one, that's why he says to him, truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. How many people have been confused about that? If you take it literally, you can never understand it. That's why he says to this thief, truly I say to you, because this is paradise. But this thief is unrepentant. That's the repentant one. These are always called brothers, sisters, pillars, thieves, the equinoxes. And why are they thieves? Because this one, stealing time from that one, this one gives you longer days and shorter nights. This one gives you...
Shorter days, longer days.
Well, yeah, shorter days and longer nights. This is the two trees in the Garden of Eden. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This is good, remember, live. And this is the opposite, evil. So when you come to this point, and you take of the tree, Libra, And the serpent is seducing Virgo, the woman, and she eats, and then the Bible says, in the day that you eat from this tree, you will certainly die. And God gave Adam and Eve clothing. Why? Because you need clothing when you go down to winter. That's all it's talking about, man. It's all it's talking about. Unfortunately, I have to finish it up. I mean, remember, this is the tree in the east that God planted. So, and he put Orion stands here, and Orion has the sword, and that's the cherub that he put to guard. There's so much more, man. This is level 1. There's a lot of deeper stuff, but in this format, I can't do.
Why don't you just quick break, and then if everyone wants to go, they can just go up and keep going.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll do that. I'll just finish off with one little thing though from Thomas Burgoyne's book. I really plan to read a lot more, but just to encourage you, right? Because this science, there is a solution. We can enlighten ourselves, and we can give ourselves the power to think. This teaches you how to think, not what to think. And the problem is the herd mentality out there, the consensus reality people out there, and especially the Christians that all hate each other. The Mormons hate the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Seventh-day Adventists hate the Catholics. So they're all liars, because they'll tell you themselves. They will admit it. You ask a Mormon, and he'll tell you that all the other Christians are liars. They have to be. But the Catholics will tell you that the Mormons are liars. And they'll dob each other in for pedophilia and abuse and rape and murder and pillaging, because they are murderers. Constant from the days of Constantine the Great, we have had nothing but hell on this earth because of Christianity. Because of Christianity's literal Christianity. Because the true Christianity is this. It is the true, as Eusebius and Augustine and many other writers have said, and they've died for it, man. They have been murdered for this. They've been murdered for this truth. Just want to read this. My brothers, could you for but one single instant realise who you are, where you are journeying, and what your final destiny? Every earthly moment at your disposal would be rightly used, and every hour considered too short for your efforts to aid your fellow man. Selfishness, wealth and power would be so utterly contemptible in your sight that their possession would be considered a fearful affliction and a curse, the moment they exceeded the comfortable requirements of mundane existence. Leave self and the world behind you for the present, and for the moment leave your life with its manifold vanities in the outer court, and together let us cross the threshold and enter the door of the temple. There at last we have entered the sacred sanctuary, my brother, and we stand face to face with the imperishable truth of our being, the truth which makes us free, the truth which must ultimately prevail, by truth of its own inherent divinity, and we realise man as he really is, not as he outwardly seems to be. We view him as a molecule, the hex. Remember the cross? Look at the shape of the body. It looks like the flat-packed hex that I showed you at the beginning. There it is. There's the cross. The Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Hex is the body. Carbon. Carbon is 666. We've been hexed. The molecule. Composed of a congregation of separate atoms, all of them held in their places by the centripetal force of the central human atom of life. And yet, small as he is, small as his kingdom is, compared with the mighty creation of which he is a part, he possesses all the inherent qualities of the whole. This then is our first conception. Man is a microcosmic molecule, an atom of divine life. Rejoice in the fact that that we can know that we can know that we are an atom of divine life, and that's where we're returning, guys. That's the place where we're returning. Anyway, I have to cut it off at that because I've got so much more here that there's not enough time. Thank you.